Let's get us rolling.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Hey now! Wait, it's not Sunday. Oh,
Yeah,
you know
what are you
what?
doing?
Hey
You've ruined it.
now! We're joined by Sean, who is potentially a criminal. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Wonderful. So we're going to talk some more about the Rekieta's case because the police, it was the arrest report, right? Or the police report came out today?
Well, the people have gotten a hold of the incident report, so yeah, the police report itself, but the actual search warrant got released out into the world
That was
yesterday.
yesterday, though, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We went over that. And then, but this is this is the police report. And you were saying that you think that this was somehow maybe leaked inappropriately or something.
Yeah, because it's there's no redactions in it. All the kids' names are out there,
Ooh.
and normally with minors, all that stuff gets redacted out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's a big tell normally, or you abbreviate their initials. So, um, like if it was Hunter Biden, it'd be like HB, and you might do the date of birth afterwards.
Right.
But the children are definitely entitled to a lot of privacy, and that's not there.
No, I know it's terrible. And I have seen people have
Mhm.
posted it on Twitter with no redactions and it has all the names and everything,
Yes.
which yeah, that's not great. And then also, you've been getting into some sort of hot water with some other YouTubers. But I guess before
Mhm.
we get into that, why don't you tell everyone in the audience who doesn't know who are you?
Yeah. So, guys, my name is Sean. Sean Martin. I'm an attorney in Ohio. I work in the Cleveland area. I do a lot of criminal defense work. I do all the other stuff along with it, and I run the channel Potentially Criminal. Obviously, we cover a lot of criminal-based things, but we cover all the other, legal stuff that happens along the way.
Hmm.
Now you're covering topics that
Mhm.
are potentially criminal, right? You're not potentially criminal. That's not
Well, the,
how the
the
name works, right?
well, a lot of people think we're crooks anyway, so it kind of fits.
Attorneys? No,
Yeah, I
come
know.
on.
Who would dare say that?
Well, I mean, I do quite often on the show, and Sitch always gives me a hard time for it. So,
I come from a long line of lawyers, okay? I
right.
respect the hustle, right? The lawyering is in my Jewish blood.
I was about
So,
to say yes.
yeah, exactly. Okay,
Your DNA.
so before I guess we get into sort of like me ask because I do want to ask you some specific things about,
Sure, sure.
your interaction with all that. Before we do that though, I want to kind of look over. I took a bunch of notes and I don't want to bring it up though
Hmm.
because it's not redacted, but I took a bunch of notes on the police report that got possibly
Hmm.
leaked through some kind of weird channel. Because here's some of the new information. Okay. So we have four people told Rekieta's pastor
Yes.
various pieces of information. It seems like this is kind of where the bulk of, or the entirety of the search warrant came from.
Hmm.
And so here are the
Well,
kind of
well,
the. Mhm,
well, I would say this is like step one. This is where everything started.
mhm.
So it was
That's true,
it's
right? Because they
it's the
looked at the
ember. It's
right,
the
yeah,
ember that started the fire.
right. So they basically, so I guess what happened is the four people supposedly told the pastor a bunch of information, which I'm going to read off in a second, and then he told the police, and then
Hmm.
the police looked at some of the streams of some of the things
Hmm.
Nick was putting out there on stream and on social media, and made a
Yes.
determination based on that, right?
Well, yeah, and they looked at that. They looked at the Steel Toe Morning Show.
Right.
So yeah, they some when you document yourself doing criminal activity.
That's not good. It's
I
not
mean,
good.
I use the example of, well, I know, Adam, you're my age. I know Sit, you're a little younger, but
Hmm.
back when I was in college, Facebook was still like that was becoming the thing, and picture people would take pictures of themselves smoking weed in the dorm rooms. Well, they would get a ticket because the cops are looking on Facebook, and it's like, well, here you go. No, people are like, "Well, you can't do that." It's like, why can't I?
Uh-huh.
It's,
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah, law enforcement loves social
yes,
media. They love
yes,
it.
Yeah, it is
yes,
it is weird the number of people that upload themselves doing something directly criminal, far more than anything, Nick
yes,
or
and
anyone's put up there. So
people telling themselves all the time, and there's a lawyer, Bruce Rivers. He calls it self snitching, and it's true. Most of the time, when people are in trouble, it's because they've told on themselves. That's
right,
why they're
right,
screwed.
right. Okay, so this is what people told the pastor, and then the pastor turned around
Hmm.
and told the police this. The
Hmm.
house was in disarray with clothes and items clustered everywhere. That the children had been noted as having been wearing the same clothes for 3 to 4 days, and their clothing was also in disarray and starting to smell. The preschool director told the pastor that the younger children are hungry and not being fed, and also made a comment about their clothing. Someone told the pastor that they don't believe the younger children are actually being homeschooled, which is interesting. Someone told the pastor that they observed Nick being lethargic and appearing to be high or drugged while driving. Someone told the pastor that Nick randomly walks out of sermons. I don't know why that's important or relevant to anything, but okay.
Well, it depends.
Well,
I mean, if he's walking out to do drugs.
Which, of course, but you could a lot of reasons you could walk out, right?
Well, yeah, but you have to remember when you're getting a warrant together, probable cause is, and I forget where I've came up with this, and maybe I heard it in law school. I don't know. I kind of forgot. I kind of zoomed out a lot, spaced out a lot. It's bricks in a wall. Like one brick doesn't make a wall. You have a bunch of little, like a wall's made
I
out
know
of a
you were a
bunch of
Pink
bricks.
Floyd fan, jeez.
Yes. Yes. But Nick walking in and out of church a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's something on its own, doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Coupled with all the things that happen, well, now it's also kind of like one piece in a puzzle. Well, okay, well now you have all these pieces around it. Well, now it makes sense what that piece was.
So it's
And
supposed to be that like he's doing drugs. Is that what the implication
yeah,
is?
well, this is why they're showing why they think this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Part
Interesting.
of this is you have to tell the story to the judge. They don't know anything that you know. So it's kind of like when you're writing an essay, like in a test. If you assume the person reading it knows everything you already know, you might be wrong. So you have to explain your reasoning. You have to explain your work. That's why they're doing this. They're starting out with here's all the reasons why.
Right.
Because otherwise the judge might say, well, how do you know? How do you know? What are these people's reasons for thinking that's a problem? And they'll say, well, because when people start doing drugs, everything falls apart. If they have kids, the kids aren't taken care of. The house isn't taken care of. They start using all the time. They look drunk or high while they're driving around and interacting with people.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got to keep your high going, you're always like, hey, I'll be back in a minute type of thing.
Right. Right. Okay. I guess
So
that
that's
makes
why
sense.
that's why they're doing it this way.
Right. Right. And so, okay. Yeah. And just to clarify, so essentially, it comes with a search warrant. You just need probable cause. So,
Mm-hmm.
you have a bunch of, like, basically a bunch of individual things that maybe don't amount to anything. But if you combine a bunch of little things that, can create a total picture that makes, appears to be probable cause, that's enough for the police to go in, essentially. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And think of probable cause as like 30% sure.
Right.
Like beyond a
Because this is
reasonable
all
doubt,
like
like
double
90%.
hearsay, right? Like,
Well, hearsay is actually okay.
well, in a search warrant, yes, not in a
Yeah, and
court.
hearsay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Or, I
there's
mean, a
times where
case.
hearsay is okay, but
Right.
yeah, if hearsay is okay as long as you can show why it's truthful. And
Hmm.
to be fair, every warrant's going to be hearsay because the officer who writes up the warrant is never going to be able to say like, "Yeah, me and Nick were sitting there busting rails and all that
I mean,
one
they
night."
could. You don't.
Well, I don't think they were in this case,
Sure.
even though they know him.
Right. But some people look at this and they'll say, because in the report, it just says an anonymous person told the pastor, and then the
Yeah.
pastor turned around. Like the pastor, so the pastor isn't really witnessing any of this stuff firsthand, according to the
I
report.
mean, I probably not directly, but I think some
Right.
of it. I mean, he probably notices just a little bit of it till it gets pointed out to him, but we don't really know yet.
Yeah, I'm just basing what the
Yeah.
thing says. But okay. Someone told the pastor that they noticed Kayla appearing anorexic and Nick appearing to have lost a substantial amount of weight. Someone says that they saw track marks on Nick's arm, or what they believe to be track marks. Someone told the pastor they believe how do I say his name? How do I say it? The Imholtz?
Yeah, the Imholtz.
Imholtz were possibly assisting with drug use, and that Nick's views and subs were down, possibly leading to financial issues. Someone told the pastor that Nick and Kayla went with the Imholtz to a casino, leaving the children alone with the eldest in charge, who was 16. Pastor said nobody told him about anything beyond the possible neglect or drug use. There were no reports of any kind of physical or sexual abuse. So, because I know there was some confusion about that because of the way the charges were, but
Yeah, and I think that is still just whoever wrote it out. There's an A2 section, which is the actual physical and sexual assault part. But if you go down, there's a section B2, which makes more sense for what they're being alleged to have done.
right.
So,
Mr. Ubercross Esquire in chat shouts in all caps, "Everything is hearsay until you're in trial. No one has made an in-court statement."
And
There
that's
you go.
fair.
There you
Yes.
go.
But the idea of the police officer observes something, that's not hearsay. Like, I watched the guy come out of the bank with a gun.
Right.
I watched
Sure,
him run in the house. So not everything is necessarily hearsay
Right.
in that regard.
They're gonna get the person that said that though to testify, right? If this goes to court.
It depends. It depends it depends on how they're going to present the case, how they're going to charge it ultimately. But yes, when you're prosecuting, you're wanting to tell a story. And to tell that story, it's just like reading a book. You don't just jump into the action. You generally have to start off and build it all up from there. And yeah, people are going to say, I'm a teacher. I'm trained to notice these things. I'm a mandatory reporter. So we're trained to look for when the kids start coming to school every day with the same clothes on, when they don't have proper hygiene, when they come to me and say, I'm hungry. I'm not eating food at home. Like, things aren't right. This, that, and the other. They're trained to notice that stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, I could see them. It really depends on what the prosecutors are going to show. And
Well,
there's a big
mhm.
hearing in August where we'll probably find out a ton of everything at once.
If they wanted, like, if this does go to
Mhm,
trial and they wanted, to bring into evidence the
mhm.
teacher saying that the kids were hungry or whatever, would they have to have the teacher come in and make the
At,
statement, or could the pastor come in and just say, "Well, the teacher told me that the kids made the
at, th-
statement"?
at that point, the best evidence, I mean, it's hearsay, number
Mhm.
one, but number two, the best, like, if somebody said it, is that person still alive and available? Then they should be the one coming in to say it.
Well, that'd be the bet. Is it even admissible to just have the pastor come and say, "So and so told me," or is that
I
not?
mean, you can make arguments that it's like a present sense impression, an effect on the hearer.
Mhm.
Those are exceptions to hearsay, but you avoid all those problems by bringing in that teacher who
Okay, interesting.
observed X.
Right. Okay, so this is the evidence they said they found in the police report.
Hmm.
Yellow snort tube with cocaine residue. Black vial tested positive for
Hmm.
2.2 grams of cocaine. Two credit cards with April's name on them.
Hmm.
Two 22 caliber spent shell casing on the floor. Glass container, metal filter, and grinder positive for cocaine.
Hmm.
Bags with cards and dollar bills positive for cocaine. Large bag of cocaine weighing 18.96 grams.
Hmm.
Now listen, I'm not a drug guy. I'm an innocent angel. I don't know. Is that a lot?
I mean, they basically had an ounce of coke total.
I don't know
That's
what
quite a
that
bit.
means. That's a
That's quite
lot?
a bit.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's like, for not for Tony Montana, but for rural Minnesota, that's going to be a ton. Um,
Uh-huh. Okay. They
Tony Montana.
yeah, he doesn't
yeah,
have the mountain there. Sure, sure.
yeah.
It's
There's
Antonio
three.
Montoya, right?
Oh, there
Yes,
you
But
go.
yes,
anyway,
Antonio. Yes, Antonio
Whatever. He said it
Montana.
the
The
white way. All right.
the
Jeez.
yes,
it's
yes, the
gross.
great
Give
real
man a
estate
break.
tycoon and
Yes.
philanthropist.
Uh, three small bags of cocaine weighing 5.49 grams of
Hmm.
cocaine, eight tablets of ketamine, a digital scale that had cocaine residue on it, two snort tubes and two metal cutters, $100 bill with cocaine residue, a cocaine scooper. I don't know what that is. I don't know any
Oh, that's
specific
classy.
scooper for
Well,
cocaine.
they're like little. It's kind of like a roach clip. You know one when you see it. There's actually like little
Okay.
scoopers.
Right, right. I'm
It's
not
Ha-
a
not like
drug.
they're
Has
using like they went to Home Goods or anything like
They don't
that.
just have like a little ice scooper that they use. They have something
Yeah,
specific. Okay.
has anyone
yeah.
explained the bullet to you yet, Sitch?
Well, I mean, I was listening to the people talking on on Kino Casino, so I
Yeah,
assume it's just a little container shaped like a bullet that has cocaine in it.
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
it's kind of a genius invention.
Why?
Well, because it has like a little scooper in it, so you tap it
Hmm.
down into the scooper, and
Yeah,
then you flip the scooper around, and it's like so you can do bumps on the go.
yeah. It's like bubbles. It's like blowing bubbles, but for your nose.
But what is the point of this? I guess, okay, listen, I don't know anything about this thing. I
Okay,
thought you just put
but
powder on the ground, on
but
some surface and you snort it. What do you need a scooper
okay.
But
for?
look,
So
that is going to be
here's the
very
thing, Stitch.
difficult if
If
you're
you're
in a
gonna, like,
club.
you can
Yeah,
pour out a big old rail.
yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Right.
and just bust a huge rail. Well, if you're
Okay.
out and about on the go, if you're a busy person in today's
Yeah,
fast-paced
exactly.
world,
You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're
you don't
driving
have
your kids to
to
school. How are you going to do
take
that?
out and lay out a big old rail every time you need a hit. Well, that attracts attention. You need
Mm-hmm.
space and time to do that, and
Right.
also you're going to burn through you have to bring a lot of coke with you. Well, you want to be discreet. Today's people need to be discreet, so you have you have a little bump. It's just a little hit, and you pull it out, and you could, and
I see. So so you can get like the correct measurement in some small little
yeah, it'll kind of hold
scooping.
you over, so you can get
Gotcha.
home, and
Right.
then till it can get you home, and you can hit the slopes,
Okay. So it's like when,
or riding the white stallion, whatever you prefer.
right. It's like when Carrie Fisher was filming Star Wars and she had like the one really long fingernail. Like you're like, is that like a
Yeah,
personal
kind of like
scoop
coke nail.
device?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not as obvious. You can put it in your pocket, right?
Yeah,
You
that's
put
that's a pretty ratchet way of doing it.
Yes. I mean, listen, she's a big time celebrity in the 70s. Okay. You do whatever you want. There was an unknown brown substance. Now, obviously, this has drawn a lot of attention as to what
Mhm.
is this possible unknown brown
Yes.
substance. Yeah. Because there is the accusation of some kind of injectable. So,
Yeah,
mhm,
we don't know what it is.
right.
And now people are thinking, I've heard all the theories like, oh, it's MDMA. Could be. It's like, oh, is it heroin? It's like, maybe. But they would have been probably tested it. They have multiple they have individual react kits that'll
Hmm.
you pour it in and it'll say it's not like a pool strip where it's got all the different colors on it. It's this one's for
They don't
meth.
have a strip that says like cocaine, heroin,
Yeah,
like all different things. They just like put it
yes.
into the. Okay.
The stuff they use now, it's you have a reaction kit for each type.
Right,
Now
right.
they're not very reliable at times. It's it's a basic indicator.
Just what the things they use out in the field are not very reliable.
That's correct. That's why
Right.
it all gets sent out for a lab.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
the lab
well,
tests are going
mhm.
to be the actual evidence.
Okay.
And they
Interesting.
get put through a gas spectrometer.
Right.
The people who run it, I'm a smart guy. I went to school for chemistry and I know how to run this stuff. And there's a bunch of numbers and lines on a graph, and I don't understand it. So I have to talk to there's an attorney I know who knows all this stuff. And I'm like, does it look good to you? And he says, yeah, it looks good. You're screwed. That's where that all comes from. What was this
Hmm.
brown stuff? We don't know. Could
Someone,
be any
yes,
number of things.
someone. I think it's kind of ridiculous. I think they're kind of joking. Someone jokingly said they thought it was brown, brown, but I think that's highly
Well,
unlikely.
brown is what
The
brown's
child
from.
soldiers in Africa.
Yeah,
Too.
that's where
it's
you store. Well,
cocaine
that's
and
where you.
gunpowder. Yeah.
Yes, and that's
Yes. Yeah.
because it gets you super high, super
Yeah.
quick.
So yeah.
Um,
Hopefully,
but
I
no,
don't think
it's
that's
not.
what it
It's
was.
not that because
Yeah.
gunpowder, even in gunpowder today, is black. I mean, it's smokeless
Okay.
Right.
powder is
So it's
like
not
you would know
actually
what it
brown,
is.
brown. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but it could be. I don't think it's anything injectable because you didn't see any evidence of needles or rigs or burnt
Hmm.
spoons, anything like that that would support intravenous drug use.
Well, that is important, yeah, because so there was
Mhm.
someone claiming that they saw what they thought were track marks, but
Yeah.
then they didn't find anything, like they didn't find any needles or anything like that.
Hmm.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, and instead of track marks, maybe it's like bug bite. Like people were saying like, "Oh, it's the mosquitoes are out," and I'm like, it just got done snowing in Minnesota. I don't think the mosquitoes were out yet. But like people, it could because they're doing coke. There's a good chance they're doing meth because getting pure coke isn't really the thing anymore.
Hmm.
I'm actually surprised they didn't get any fentanyl because that's like in everything nowadays. Like those pills they got,
Hmm. Well,
unless you get them from a pharmacy, like there's a good chance that stuff's all fentanyl.
right, but when the police do the more intensive testing, I mean, they'll say, right, if it's mixed with fentanyl or something.
Yeah, they'll find out because they're
Right,
gonna take one of them and test it.
right, right. There
So
was something when he was arrested and brought to jail, they said the police observed several injuries on Nick's arm they believed to be
mhm,
sores common with controlled substance
mhm.
abuse. What sores are they talking
So
about?
like if you start doing a lot of coke,
Hmm.
I mean, and after a while, especially if you're doing meth, you start like people get meth bumps, and you've seen people with the meth face, and they've picking and you develop little sores and bumps. That's common very much when
That's not
people.
from injecting, you just get those sores from doing the
Well, you
drug.
get them because you start taking it, and then you start like picking at yourself, and
Oh,
yeah. Oh yeah, no,
horrifying.
people on people on stimulants. Yeah, there's a lot of damage. There's a
Oh
lot of
my
damage you
God.
cause.
Ugh. Okay. They also found three
Yeah.
guns, I believe, on the premise.
Hmm.
They said they took photos. There's an audio recording of the police
Hmm.
talking to Nick, and there's
Hmm.
body cam footage. So And you were saying like 3 weeks for the body cam footage. So.
Yeah, the pictures might be quicker because they can just redact those as they go. The audio might take a little while, but yeah, it's probably going to be a couple weeks before we really get anything good.
Right. Okay. And then they also talked about in the police report what happened the day of. They said as the police were approaching the house, they observed Nick driving in the opposite direction. In his car, they stopped and searched him. Then when they reached the house, one of Nick's daughters answered the door, but did not open it, saying she was advised by her father not to open the door for strangers. The police knocked for several moments to no avail. They asked Nick for the door code, but he refused to give it. The police then used a ram to knock down the door/gate. I don't know. So why did they say the police said in their report specifically that they caused minimal damage to the door? Why is that important?
Well, I think that's their way of they want to show they didn't just they put everything behind. They hit it just enough to open the door, like to pop it open. They didn't hit it so hard the door slams against the wall that it was like this major SWAT raid or it was like Delta Force hitting a house. It's just to show like that's their way of trying to say we did this is to cause the least amount of damage as possible.
What was it?
Because there were
Is
also
it for
children in the home. They knew there were children in the home.
Gotcha. So it's like we didn't do like a SEAL Team 6 like break into the skylights.
Yeah, it wasn't the Iranian hostage rescue.
Gotcha. Okay.
Type of thing.
That makes sense. They talk about when they were inside, they found both Kayla, April, and the kids, and that everyone complied with the police. The police say the house was dirty. Nick asked to look at the search warrant. Nick asked to look at the search warrant, and then after looking at it for a while, he threw it on the ground.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll get some. Hopefully, that's caught on camera.
I hope
we can
so
get some
too.
remixes of throw it on the ground with that. Nick. Okay. After one of the cops asked to speak with Nick, Nick agreed to speak and waived his rights to counsel after he was given his Miranda warning. This conversation was recorded on body cam. In the conversation, at least in the police report, all they said was that Nick said April was just a friend who was only visiting, and that Nick and his wife were the ones sleeping in the master bedroom. So I guess he keeps bringing up the master bedroom. So I guess since most of all of the drug things were found in the master bedroom, he's trying to, throw the blame at him and his wife away from April by saying like, oh, well, she's not in there, right?
Yeah. Nothing says true love like taking up for your hoe and implicating your wife in a felony.
Leaving your wife high and dry.
Yeah, well, that's what he did. He's like, oh, me and Kayla sleep in there. It's like, that's where all the drugs are.
Like,
oh, listen. April, the hoe, she's the side hoe, and as Aaron likes to call. When I said that on Kino Casino, he's like, I'm actually okay with you saying that about her. He's like, I like that term. Yeah. Oh no, it's all ours. And Kayla's like, what the fuck you saying it's all ours for? Like, what? Like, why would you? Why are you telling on yourself, man?
Well, also, I mean, he's talking to the police, which
why are you telling
not supposed
on
to
yourself?
do, right?
Yeah. At that point, there's nothing. You're not talking your way out of it. So,
is there any reason to ever talk to the police at that point?
No.
Then why did he do it? What's happening? What do you think was happening there?
At times, I think some of it might have been. Everybody has the plan, like, oh, I'm going to do something when something happens, and then when it happens, your brain just vapor locks.
Of course, right.
You forget. But also, I mean, if you listen to Aaron talk about it, basically, April is, Nick's new, like, object of affection. So he's like, I want to save her. And meantime, his wife's standing over here on the side. It's like the meme. He's looking at April, and Kayla's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
He should have been like, listen, I've been in a big fight with my wife for months. She's become a lesbian. Her and April are sleeping in the guest bedroom, and I'm sleeping in the master bedroom alone, right?
He could have done that, yeah.
Fall on the sword yourself.
He could have.
Okay.
This is a prisoner's dilemma, though, literally, right? Like, could April have turned on Nick and company?
Yes, and there's it's not clear if she did yet or not because she was ultimately not charged. So we don't know.
I mean, that's a pretty big indicator, right? I mean,
well, At times it can be, but when one of the people, the person that's the object of the warrant says this person had nothing to do with any of it,
Mhm.
it creates kind of an issue about whether or not they have enough reason to charge her at that point.
Isn't she listed in the warrant though? They bring up the steel toe.
She's listed as somebody they were going to find and interact with,
Right.
but when the person like who owns the home and the property and it's like, nope, I have access to everything, it's not hers.
Right.
It's really hard for the police to say, well, you're guilty of, we're going to charge you with possession when the guy who
Yeah.
owns
Okay.
all of it
Okay.
says it's
That
not
makes
mine.
sense.
Although I have heard that from I have sources now that I'm in the news and drama business.
Mhm.
I have a source who indicated she April ran a gossip column of her own when she got arrested initially, so we'll see what that leads to.
What do you mean by that? She ran a gossip column.
She talked to the police.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's a little Sopranos talk there.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
We don't.
So it sounds like she talked to.
Neither of us watch The Sopranos, so we don't know the lingo.
Oh, you don't?
But,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I saw the
So
first
she
episode about
started
ducks, and I was
blabbing.
like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm going to watch the rest of this. Okay, okay. So, but she can still be charged later, though, right? If they
Oh, yeah, she
change-
can. I mean, the statute of limitations is going to be a while. I mean,
Mhm.
especially, I mean, it just literally happened. So, and for Nick and Kayla, their charges could be upgraded or downgraded at any time
Well,
in the lead up.
would you predict that they would charge her later, or is it
They
too
would
early?
It
threaten to
depends.
charge her to
If
get
she
her to
made an
witness.
agreement to work with them, they might not charge her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They would
That's
threaten.
where
though.
that's what it all depends if she's a cooperating witness or not.
Right. So if she doesn't cooperate, do you think they would charge her?
I don't think so, especially if they've already got the statements from Nick where he says it's not hers. I think they're in a bit of a they're going to be in a bit of a tough spot there.
Well, okay. So wait, this might be a stupid question, but
Mhm.
so obviously owning the drugs is illegal, but is doing
Yes.
the drugs illegal?
Well, doing them, you're like if you're in the room with them, that you're possessing them because you're sitting there hanging out with them. But
Mhm.
having them in your body is not traditionally considered possession.
Right. So I mean, like if
Like once you've
Nick
done 'em.
is the one who's buying it all, and he says like, "Here, like do some coke or whatever," she does it. Like she's still in possession at the moment that she's like handed the drugs to do.
Yeah, I mean, if she's got them in her hands up until they pretty much disappeared up her nose. Yeah, it's possession.
Okay. Okay.
But at that point, it's already happened. They generally don't try to get you for things like that if it's already like, oh, I used drugs like 8 hours ago, so they're gonna slap her with possession. They generally don't do it like that.
Really? Okay. So like all this stuff of like, because Aaron has gone in like significant detail about
Mhm.
the relationship and like how his wife was, or I guess they're getting divorced, how his ex-wife
Yes.
or did all, April did all these drugs. And
Mhm.
but so you don't think that would be likely to say like, oh well, you did all these drugs, so we're going to charge you?
Yeah, not in that type of situation. No, it's not for just drug use. I mean, I know
Mhm.
people say, well, there's evidence, but Aaron's got a lot of credibility issues on his own at the end of the day too. So
Real okay. What is
I
that?
mean, well, he's got a bias. Him and his wife are getting divorced.
Hmm.
This issues happen. Aaron's admitted to doing drugs himself. I mean, I think a lot of what Aaron has said is probably true.
Mhm.
But I think you need to make sure you take Aaron with a grain of salt. Everybody's, people are always going to make themselves sound a little better, even if they fully, prostrate themselves in front of us. Is that me? You
Mhm.
got my
Okay.
thug life going, Adam.
I did it for Nick.
Oh, did it for
I
Nick.
pulled
Okay.
it up. Yeah.
Well, you got to pull it up to the higher. You got to pull the layers up. There you go.
I
Terrible.
fixed it. Yeah. Look, I do a little light graphic design on the side here. Hey, while we're in this like who had what stuff, like I'm under the impression it's bad news to have a scale because it implies that you're dealing. A lot of people in the comments seem to think, oh, scale is no big deal at all.
That's actually not. The scale itself is not evidence alone of distribution.
Right.
When you start using drugs, you become a very good follower of the metric system.
Right.
And
of course.
How
yeah.
un-American.
Yes, but it's so much easier. Requires less thought. You weigh that to make sure you got the right amount. You aren't getting screwed. There's a lot of things like that. Although I've made the joke before. It's like imagine if Nick had gotten shorted by somebody. Like what? Like Nick Rekieta does not sound like a scary type of person to come knock on your door, like, give me my money back. It's like, no.
Terrible.
So they
Especially
can
like
argue the scale away. They're not if
the
they
scale. The
throw
scale is
like
just drug paraphernalia, and
right.
people who do drugs very frequently they make sure they know how much they're using. They're using the right amount because you got to make your supply last. So I'm like, when I do so much at a time.
Mhm.
It's not like in the movie where you just like pour a line. You might pour a line once in a while like that, but you'll have measured out your dose to make sure you just don't go through it all.
We have completely different drug use philosophies. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if when you're buying 25 grams of coke at a time, I think
I know you can you can go hog wild. Jeez.
But people
That's how you die, right?
that's typically why people
Death.
would just making sure they know how much they have, that they're using so much. I mean, especially if you use something like heroin or fentanyl, you're
Right.
gonna make sure you're using the right amount.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
not just you don't eyeball that one.
Right.
So.
Ukala for $20. Thanks so much. Says free the hey now. S class is best class. Thank you. Okay. And JMac, our surrogate father, Daddy JMac, thanks so much for the $50. Says, as someone who experienced this sort of thing, my heart goes out to his kids. I don't know how old they are, but kids always are always the victim. Hopefully they have family to take them so they're not caught up in the receiving foster system. Yeah, so actually in the police report they said that they were contacting, I believe it said they were contacted family members and the children are with family members currently.
Yeah, that day it's because they live out there. That's where his wife's from, that area. So
right. So, yeah, so there's family.
grandparents picked up those kids. Those kids didn't spend a night in foster care.
All right, that's good.
But they're from 6 to 16, so
a wide range. Yeah.
Yeah, and for people might think, oh, the 16-year-old's tough. It's like that's going to be tough for him too.
Oh
Sure,
yeah.
of course. Okay. Says, let's see. Okay, so Nick talked to police the first time on the scene. Then they were in jail. In jail, both Kayla and April said they wanted an attorney and did not talk to the police. Nick then, while at jail, again agreed to talk to the police and waived his rights to counsel. He refused to answer questions about drug use, but repeated the claims about April only being a friend and visiting. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
I like in the comments somebody said, he's got a metric scale. Get him.
I mean, listen, you should get extra time just for not, being an American measurement system, right?
Yes.
So.
Don't you love ounces, son? Why can't you measure in ounces like everyone else?
Jeez. Okay, so I believe that was all the new information that came out in the police report. Did I miss anything? Is there anything?
No.
Okay.
No. That's from what I've seen. It's pretty good.
Right. So do you think that what they had was a strong search warrant for probable cause?
Yeah. Yes. And
Mhm.
when you do these search warrants, and I worked as a I've been doing this for 10 years now. I worked as a prosecutor for about 2.5 years. So I've also put together search warrants. Is it the strongest search warrant ever? No, there's some I caught the guy doing it. I watched him go in the house. I watched him take in a big white bag for the house. Okay, cool. This is pretty good though. It starts off the people in this congregation, the people at this church have concerns. Drastic changes started happening in this family over the past couple of months. And if you guys have watched any of Nick's stuff going from last year into this year, just if you didn't know Nick was using alcohol and other stuff, I bet there's people in that church that thought he had cancer or something really bad was happening to him because he looks like he's dying when he's on screen.
Right.
And I can only imagine it looks worse when you're there in person and you remember him from, hey, that guy I know over the summer looks like he only weighs 120 pounds. Like,
right.
Oh boy. And he's like 6'2" or 6'3". It's like, geez.
So there was a time period when the police were trying to get in and they couldn't, so they break down the door, right? Why didn't April and Kayla flush the drugs down the toilet or something? What's up with that? Ladies, you're kind of dropping the ball here, right? You have to have a plan.
Well, you have to plan your work and work your plan. Yes, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say they're probably coked out of their fucking gourds at that point. I mean,
Shouldn't that make you more like excited to do the plan, right? You're more energized.
Well, I mean, like they're probably just completely out of it.
Oh,
I
okay.
think I don't know. They also
Right.
might have just been in panic, or
Typical
yeah,
women, right?
yeah, or they it's just this they can't get a hang of themselves.
I know. You need a man there. It's like, everyone calm down.
Yes.
You have a plan to ditch the drugs in case the
Hmm.
police are breaking our door down. They just didn't go through with it.
Which,
Shame.
well, I mean, people who drugs or transport drugs for some reason don't plan ahead. That's like they use cars that
Well,
don't
they're
have the
doing
tail lights.
drugs, so obviously they're not
Yeah,
planning ahead.
but you know, but they don't. You know, if you're hauling a Kia Coke and you're like,
Right.
you should be hauling this like you're hauling a spy. Like the lights on my car work, my license
Hmm.
plate's good. Like I don't
Right.
have these problems with it. Like the car's in working order. You
Hmm.
know, you have the plan. You plan for contingencies. You know,
Right.
if I
Right.
had a bunch of this stuff in the house, how would I get rid of it if the cops could show up instantly? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
not a normal, not a lot of normal planning there.
Right. I don't know. I guess I think people that are just regularly doing drugs that are very bad for you are not the best at planning ahead for
Yes,
these sorts of
yes.
contingencies. So, yeah. Because it was funny and it's really bad because like when I was reading this police report, my mind just instantly went to like, how would I hide drugs if the police came? Like
Yeah,
I started thinking of all these plans. I was like, wait, what would I do in this
yeah.
situation? So
Or you'd be
Rushing is a
like in
good
a
idea, but
have you seen Goodfellas, Sitch?
of course I love that
So you'd
movie,
be like
yeah.
Karen sitting there just with the scissors, just chop, chop, chop in the
Mm.
toilet.
Well, see, they always in the movies. I assume that doesn't work very well because especially just depending on how much you have, right?
Well, depending how much you have, yes, but I mean, you can flush it down, but it's
Hmm.
yeah, you need. Well, they had the good toilets back then. Remember,
You
we
didn't
have
have
the
the
low
low
flow
flows now,
toilet.
you're in
Yeah,
trouble, right? Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that's the problem.
Right. Right. No, I mean, I don't even know if I should say. I think I came up with a bunch of good ideas, but I'm not going to say them. Listen, I don't want to aid anyone in a criminal activity, okay? But I thought of some good
Well,
ideas.
here's what I'll tell you.
Yeah.
If you think you have good ideas, they're probably gonna find it anyway. Like you have to be the places you think you can hide stuff.
Hmm.
Drug users are very creative in that regard. So
Hmm.
probably more
Sure.
creative than you think. So the cops have found their stuff.
Hmm.
So they'll find it. There's a good chance they'll find it anyway.
Probably.
Unless
Probably.
you have the cocaine like mixed in with the paint on your walls and you just walk around licking the walls and it's like they'll never find it.
Well, sure, and I guess also if you hide it somewhere, they can always bring dogs in and stuff, right? And
Yeah, well, that's true. They could bring in
sniff it
dogs.
out. Right, right. So, you'd have some way.
so
But
I have a question about so Nick
Yeah.
doesn't have any sort of criminal record. So
Mhm.
how much of an advantage is that going to be to him getting off without doing any jail time? Like I want to start cracking jokes now, but if he gets like 10 or 20 years, I'm gonna
He's
feel
not gonna.
bad.
Yeah, he's not gonna go make license plates at the state penitentiary. If that's
Okay,
you're
okay,
concerned
good.
about that. No,
So but
he has no criminal record. This is not a crime of violence. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of drugs, but it's clear it's all personal use. This isn't, he was able to do this because of his, the money he has made. I mean, 25 grams of coke is a lot of coke for coke users because most people can't
how much do
afford
you
that
think that
kind
would
of money.
cost?
27 grand. I know, look, I'm imagining having
Probably like,
27 grams and like
yeah.
flushing it down the toilet. That's like
Well, you live in LA. It might be a little different price wise, but probably cost him like I could see him paying a premium because I assume people are ripping him off.
Hmm.
But like probably at least like 2,500 to 3 grand.
Okay, interesting.
So, but I mean, he's been doing it for a while, given how he's looking. So he's been,
Right.
they've been how much have they gone through in the meantime?
Hmm.
But yeah, he's not. It's a first time offense. All these factors are in favor of, and even in Minnesota, they have a sentencing grid, which kind of denotes based on your criminal history and what type of crime it is. You can kind of line things up and it'll give the recommended sentence. He's within the range where there's a presumption for a probation sentence or a stayed sentence. So that's under state law where they say, look, judge, you should really consider not putting this guy in prison. Let him get treatment, work with him. They also have different programs, like there's like diversion or intervention programs where he can go out, seek treatment. And if he complies with that treatment over the course of probably like at least 1.5 years to 2 years, they can also end up dismissing charges. There's a lot of options available. It's all going to be a question of whether or not he can do them.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's unlikely he'll spend prison time at all?
Yeah, it's not gonna be like I come on and like Nick Rekieta gets 56 months in the Department of Corrections. Nothing like that. No. Now, if they put him in these programs and he, does fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Like, yeah, that will happen. But if he's gonna work with them and try, no.
Okay.
Well, this is great. That's great news. Look, no jail time. He's going to go into some rehab program. We're all going to look back and laugh at this. Hopefully he gets his life together, right? Now, can he do coke in those rehab programs, or they prohibit that?
I don't think so.
They frown upon that, and you can't do shots there either. So.
Oh, damn. So
yeah.
He's probably going to be an AA. He's going to have to do some new branding thing, because isn't that part of his live stream? Isn't it really like getting drunk with Nick Rekieta?
Pretty much. Yeah, he's going to have to do something new.
Getting sober with Nick Rekieta. Every time instead of doing a shot, he'll read like a Bible verse, okay?
That sounds horrible.
We'll do a shot of wheatgrass.
There you go. So what is this thing? Because it seems like you know all this drama and backstory. I don't know any of this drama and backstory. What is this drama and backstory that he has with this judge who is, possibly biased against him?
So Nick represented a lady who had embezzled so much money from a company, she bankrupted it and put everyone out of business.
Oh my God.
Well, that happens. It happens.
I know, but that's fucked up.
Yeah, yes, it is. And it is. Well, heck, I was my first prosecuting gig I was at, one of the first things I had to go do, these ladies had worked for a bank in the town, and this is from like 2014 to 2018, they stole like $400,000.
Jesus.
And it's because this was a small town like bank that survived all the savings and loan crashes. They still had like paper slips they were using for things. And they had short slipped and done so much voodoo with things. They stole like $400,000. And yeah, and it was the idea they were trying to get out of prison. And I asked my boss, like, what do I do? He's like, just say they stole $400,000. Don't let them out. And I walked in there. The judge is like, well, what's the state's position? And we're like, Your Honor, they stole $400,000. They need to stay in prison. And the judge is like, he basically is like, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. They'd only been in prison for like 7 or 8 months at that point. So it's like,
fuck them.
But yeah, she stole all the money, and Nick was representing her. And they showed up for her sentencing, and the judge nuked this lady. Gave her Nick was asking for probation, which I know people are saying, like, how dare you ask for that? It's like, because that's my job, is to try to limit the impact here.
As a lawyer, right? Yeah.
You don't walk in saying, well, judge, look, I know you're gonna, ship him out for a little bit. Like, no, you don't ask for that. You always try to respectfully do it.
Do we know how much this woman stole from this company?
It was a lot. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
And it wasn't like she did it because her kids had cancer. They went on like vacations and all. Like it wasn't for like a you could say like, I get why they did it.
She's a greedy bitch. Yes.
Yeah.
Not an Aladdin situation.
So
the sentencing.
Yeah. So at the sentencing, the judge really goes off on this lady. I mean, she nukes her for a little bit of time. She also got mad at her and saying like that you hired an attorney. Like how you stole this money and then you had the gall to hire an attorney. Now, here's the problem. Nick says all this, so we have to be careful how true everything is at this point. Because I've heard of this happening before where it's very rare, but a judge should never do that because she has the right to hire counsel. It's a constitutional right. So how dare you bring an attorney? It's like the Constitution says you can. And according to Nick, and this is where I think the story gets a little sus, he didn't stand up in the middle of court and say, Judge, stop. I object. You need to be recused. We need someone else here to handle sentencing. This is improper. This can't go on. Because that's what you got to do. You can't let her keep going. You got to stop it at that point, or at least make note of it on the record. And then it would get up on an appeal, and the appeals court would say, yeah, that's bad. you get resentenced by another judge.
Right.
Well, none of that happened. Nick just sat there, and he then says that he, I guess later they were leaving the courthouse, or he ended up being in the elevator with the judge, and he claims he confronted her. And it's like, just so you know, I was doing it pro bono. Now, the way he says it very much gives off and then the bus clap vibes. I mean, it's just like people on Twitter were like, my 2-year-old asked me, Mommy, is this the end of democracy? It's like, you should tell your kid, yes, it is.
Hmm.
But that's where, let's say that really happened like that. Well, now, that's gonna give you problems with that judge. One. Number two, you've admitted to like cornering someone in an elevator, so that makes you sound like a loon. You're also a man who's done it to a woman, and Nick is, he's over 6 foot. This judge is not. Like that's a whole set of issues right there.
Hmm.
So there's already animosity. She's also the judge presiding over the Montagraph lawsuit. So that's the
Which
one
I don't
where
know
Nick.
about either.
Okay,
But
so Nick called
well,
Montagraph.
before you get into that, let me just
yeah,
ask:
yeah.
could any of this be like good grounds to get a different judge?
I think so. I think
Hmm.
so. But there's actually a better ground coming up. The fact
Okay.
that she signed the search warrant, like we should probably have a different judge. She's already made she's already made decisions that there was a probable cause at the very least.
Oh,
Like
right.
she's
Is
already
that
seen
a normal
facts.
thing that the search warrant judge is the presiding judge in the case?
Typically no, but the thing is in Minnesota, all the stuff is like they have a unified court system. So there isn't like a municipal court and then a felony court. This is all done in one place.
Hmm. Okay.
Candioi County, Minnesota is also only like 42,000 people. It's very rural. It's very
My
sparse. So there
Right.
aren't a lot of judges to start with. So that's an issue, but they do have other judges in the courthouse, and I'm assuming they can handle criminal cases too. So one would think that would be the easier option. Because
Okay.
that's the argument I would make is, Judge, you already signed off on the search warrant. Now, some places, like I've been in counties in Ohio where the judge who signed off on the search warrant was the judge there, and he said, well, no, I can be impartial. And to that judge's credit, he was very impartial, even though he had heard a bunch of stuff at the beginning. But in that case, there weren't any issues of like children being mistreated or maltreated or neglected.
Hmm.
And I would argue those are kind of aggravating factors that might
Especially
cause
for a
that
woman,
judge not
right?
to be.
They get all their
Yes,
womanly parts up and,
yes.
they get emotional
Let's
about it. Yeah.
put that up there. Yeah. Your Honor, we know how you women type get. And
When children
it
are
gets with your
involved,
emotions. You get all antsy in the pantsy.
Right. Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
put that
Exactly.
put that in the motion and see what happens.
Okay, so what is this other
So,
lawsuit?
so he's been sued by Montagraph. Montagraph is a guy here on YouTube, and
Hmm.
he's does all kinds of videos. Monty, if you're listening to this, I'm not going to say anything wrong. He's very eccentric. You could call him crazy. Some people would. So at one point, he had caught the attention of like Mr. Medicare back in like 2019, and Nick learned about him. And Monty had in hindsight now, an unfair reputation put against him. And the big thing was that he had an affinity for children.
So someone was throwing a pedo accusation at him.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was an
Right.
accusation of that he was a pedo,
Hmm.
and you know, Monty confronted Nick like, well, that's not true. Nick said, I think it is. I dare you to sue me over it.
And he
So
did.
Montagraph
He
sued him for
did. Oh
defamation,
God. Okay.
and Nick has kind of doubled down the whole time, and
Hmm.
then as it's gone on and on and on and on now for a while, it's been doubling down, doubling down, doubling down. The night of that last stream he had, him and his attorney Mark Randazza had tried to argue that Colorado law should have applied governing whether or not it's defamation, because that's where Montagraph lived when he filed the lawsuit.
Hmm.
The trial judge, Judge Fisher, said, nope, I don't think that's the case. So they appealed it to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals sided with Montagraph, saying Minnesota law applies. I will
Hmm.
say, and I've said this before, Nick barely lost, like by the slimmest of margins.
So under
So
under Colorado's law, it would have been dismissed.
Colorado's got a very tough anti-slap law,
Hmm.
which would have been hard for Montagraph to beat. But at the end of the day, if defamation per se, where you accuse someone of committing a crime, there's a good chance I think even if Nick would have won his appeal and the judge was forced to apply Colorado law,
Hmm.
I think the judge would say, no, I think this is defamation per se. Montagraph survives the anti-slap motion. Now this lawsuit proceeds to discovery. What happened here was Nick lost on his appeal straight up, so the judge's initial ruling still stands, and now they're going to go forward to discovery.
Okay, so he hasn't lost the case yet. He just
No,
lost
he
this element of it.
yeah, he lost the ability to choose the rules they were going to play the game under.
Gotcha. So I how does this work? I mean, listen, people call each
Yeah.
other pedos and Nazis every day on the internet. Like, I thought that was fine, right? Like, what's going on? What is the rule
Well,
here?
it's if you've got people who are willing to put some money down
Mm-hmm.
and they're willing to back it up, there's times where you could sue.
Okay, interesting. You can't just say like,
Yeah.
well, it's in my opinion that this person is like X, Y,
Well,
Z.
just saying in an opinion,
Mm-hmm.
or people are like, "Oh, I could just say allegedly." That doesn't always help you. Sometimes that doesn't
Okay.
shield you,
You can't
but
say in Minecraft at the end and just,
it
skate
doesn't. It
by.
doesn't help always. No.
Okay. Right. Interesting.
Um,
Okay, and that's the judge that decided that they would use Minnesota law instead of Colorado
yes,
law.
it's the same
Gotcha.
judge.
Right. Now, why would that be a conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict, but you could argue that you would argue there's bias. You're already in a courtroom, that you already have a case. Like, I have a defamation case against me, that you've already made a determination that you think I've committed defamation per se already.
Hmm.
You believe it to be defamation per se, that you've already prejudged things. Now, the state and the judge might also argue, I made a ruling that's not helpful to you, but that doesn't mean it's prejudicial. Like, it's prejudicial to you, but not biased.
Right.
So I ruled in a way you didn't like. That's just how it goes. But I would make the argument she oversaw the search warrant. That's probably a stronger argument to get rid of her than the other
Okay.
ones.
Interesting. Okay. So why the other day,
Hmm.
I saw you were getting into it, right? Rather, Barnes was getting into it with you. What's going on there? Why is he mad at you?
Yeah, look,
I
my question is, look, if Nick
Yeah.
is going to get off with just a wrist slap here, why
Mhm.
is Robert Barnes all up in arms about this?
Well, I mean, if the idea is the job of an attorney is to limit your exposure and put you in the best position possible. If I could walk in there, file a suppression motion, and get everything tossed, and Nick walks out of there like it never even happened, that's my goal.
Hmm.
Robert Barnes looked at this and he started making arguments like, well, there's a Fourth Amendment issue. We before we even knew what the search warrant said, like, we just knew the cops found drugs. We didn't know what the search warrant said. Like, I don't know how you know that. And then he starts talking about, like, oh, this is a First Amendment issue because Nick is out there in a small town. He's speaking truth to justice, and everybody out there is out to get him. And this is a big conspiracy. It's like, how the hell do you know any of that? Like, yes, I'm sure the halls of power in Minnesota quake every time Nick is passing out on camera. Like,
Right.
it's like, there's things Robert Barnes does great, but when he gets all like, he didn't know anything about what was going on. He just spent like 2 seconds reading it and is
Hmm.
very hyperbolic. He gets very histrionic about things.
Wow.
And
Histrionic.
yeah, and like, oh my God, there's so many violations. Like, you don't know if there's any violations here.
Hmm.
You could argue, yeah, they're going to challenge the search warrant saying it violates the Fourth Amendment, but you have no idea if there's any grounds in there that are actually going to work. There's, I just, it doesn't help though that I also came out and was willing to say, yes, guys, this does not look good. And even if Nick were to beat the charges, there's a lot of problems here. Like, his kids weren't being taken care of. He basically spent all his time, snorting coke and humping. And it's
Hmm.
like, take care of your kids, man. Like, you got to do the right things. Like, that's no good. Like you're doing all this and there's a gun in the house, and the adults in this house aren't capable of handling themselves or taking care of the children. Like, thank God one of those kids didn't try to cook dinner one day and start a fire. With
Right.
the adults out of it, and like that house full of garbage and clothes, like that's a fire hazard. Like, there's a
Nick is
million
swearing
things.
up and down though his kids were taken care of, and he does. I mean, he has a 16-year-old, so if he's
Well,
offloading a lot of the
yeah,
responsibility to the
that's a
16-year-old,
problem. Yeah, like offloading responsibility on a 16-year-old. It's like, but apparently it was, what? So it's the 16-year-old's job now to do
well, I
the
mean, you can
job of the
contest it, but
parents.
like
Yeah,
he's said, look, the kids were
yeah.
never in danger, so they
Well,
were never left unattended. The idea that they could have started a fire, cooking is kind
oh,
of. I mean, I look, I
yeah.
don't
No, no. I
know.
know. I know you're not
Like
saying.
I
I know you're
wasn't
not saying
there,
that.
but
You're saying what
right.
Nick said, but I guess I'll say this, and this is where people got mad at me because it was other places where I was commenting. They're like, "Well, how do you know what happened here?" And I'm like, "I've been doing this for a little while. I got some experience, and it
Mhm.
kind of played out the way I thought it played out." And then also, there's other attorneys in my, who were in my chat, and they kind of they said, "Oh, it's going to be some sort of child welfare protective services starts off this investigation." And yeah, it kind of did. And it was a looking into what was happening to these kids, and then they said all of a sudden realized, oh my God, these parents look like drug addicts and are acting like drug addicts. And we find them on video, with a white nose, and Aaron's sitting there screaming on steel toe about everybody doing coke. It's like, well, kind of solves the mystery.
Yeah,
But this
I
So
idea of like the
mhm.
6-year-old taking care of everybody, it's like
the
that's not
16-year-old,
gonna.
not the 6-year-old, but
Yeah,
look,
the 6-year-old
I've
taking care of
experienced.
everybody is gonna be. He can't,
I've
he
experienced both.
can't
Well,
do
hold
it.
on. Look? I've experienced both
Yeah.
people who use drugs and handle their
Mhm.
shit, and people who
Yes.
use drugs and can't handle their shit.
Hmm.
So I don't know if Nick is in the realm of like he was handling. Obviously, getting arrested is out of control. So I
Sure.
just look.
Well,
I would give him the benefit of the doubt on the kids until we get a little more information.
sure, and I get that. I get that. You can
Yeah.
give them the benefit of the doubt, like the kids were being taken care of, but I guess it's when you go to the church and it's like, what is their motive to lie? Is it, is this basically Footloose with cocaine and swinging in it, where they're like, well, these Rekieters, they're doing the drugs and the swinging. We can't have that. Or, I mean, is that what happened? Or is it people are like, oh my God, I'm concerned for the welfare of these children? And I think in reality, it's probably the second one.
Well, I'm sure
And
they
people,
are
and
concerned
I'm
for the
sure they
welfare
ask
of the
those kids,
children.
like,
So
hey, what's going on at home? Well, mommy and daddy, disappear all day, and there's weird people over at the house, and I don't, well, when do you eat? Well, I don't know. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of questions were asked to these kids at some point or another too.
right from the church leaders ask these
From the
kids
church,
this.
or
Yeah.
even afterwards, children's services may even talk to them, or for the older ones, because the 6-year-old's not going to be a credible witness in a trial, but the 16-year-old might get called as a witness. Like, what was going on in the house?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff seems superficial to me. Like I know I have friends that have like a bunch of kids and don't do drugs, and their
Hmm.
house is a fucking disaster all the time.
Sure, sure.
I've seen people that don't have kids and do drugs all the time, and their house is a fucking disaster all the
Hmm.
time. So just
Yeah.
basing it off a messy house, I don't think is good.
Well.
Like obviously saying that the kids, they didn't, they hadn't changed their clothes and they hadn't
Hmm.
eaten and they were complaining to other people. Like that looks horrendous.
Yeah.
So but these
And
other things just seem kind of ancillary to me.
remember, it's those are the things that flesh out that ultimate thing. Like, how do we know this is happening? Why do we think this is happening? Well, Nick and Kayla are acting like people who their drug use is getting full blown, like they completely changed. Like they both look like they're withering away. Like that's how it goes. They disappear all the time. Like they're showing up at church functions all loopy and goofy and weird, and they behavior changes, and watching Nick every night scream and yell, and pass out and, have white shit on his nose. You put all of that together and that gives you, like I said, now you're looking at a bunch of bricks in the wall
Yeah, no,
or, a
there's
big
look,
Jenga tower now.
you should not be doing drugs around your kids. Like if you have
Yes. No,
5
I
kids,
agree.
drugs should not be a part of your life.
But I know
let
what you're
me be
getting at.
clear,
Yeah,
right?
no, I don't think anybody's questioning you. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm not questioning you about that. But I understand your point. Yes, there are people who can, you know people who are doing drugs and things are all good. You know people who aren't and their houses look like a bomb went off.
Yeah, exactly.
But typically, and this is where we throughout life stereotypes exist for a reason because they're generally true. People who start
Generally, yes, yeah.
well, and because of, and we guide our life by the experience of others too. People are doing drugs, especially tons of drugs, everything kind of falls apart because they're busy getting drugs and doing drugs. This is part of like that experience, like a lot of children's services cases. It's not just mom and dad can't take care of the kids because usually that's something that gets solved right away. The
Right.
people from the agency show up, the county show up. Here, can we help you? Here's services. Boom, done. Everything's great. Like the county only gets involved taking kids out of the home or like there's custody orders and things like that when mom and dad are doing drugs. So I get what you're saying, but the that's like I always use the argument. I'm sure there are people who have dropped out of high school, gotten addicted to heroin, and are now multimillionaires. That doesn't mean the way to be a multimillionaire is drop out of high school and start shooting heroin.
Yeah,
There's a
no.
better way to do it that more people are going to likely accomplish.
And the kids, tend to get taken away once the parents have some
Stitch is
sort of
like
encounter with
Stitch is
law
like
enforcement.
taking notes. Drop out of school, do heroin.
No.
Get money.
Look, there are most these situations happen. The parents have
Mhm.
some sort of interaction with law enforcement. Law enforcement
Mhm.
puts them in some sort of treatment program. They can't they
Mhm.
can't quit the drugs, and sooner or later the kids are taken away. I would like to hope that
Mhm.
Nick Rekieta is going to not let that happen. Like his first brush with law enforcement in this
Mhm.
kind of thing is going to make him realize, I shouldn't be
Yeah.
doing drugs around my
I hope so too.
kids. Yeah. Cause it's
Mhm.
just a shame when these, and look, I have friends that their parents are complete fuck up drug addicts and,
Mhm.
they've ended up in foster care. So it's you hope that that's not the situation.
Yeah, and that's the other thing people have asked, like, what's the children's services angle in this? Like the trajectory for a case like that, you're looking at like 12 to 18 months minimum because, to get your kids back, you have to show you're clean, the house is safe. I've got a job, and they're probably going to tell Nick streaming don't count anymore
Oof.
because when you're streaming, like we know what happens when you're streaming. Whatever they might, who knows what'll happen, but they're you're gonna take parenting classes, you're gonna do this and that and the other. We're gonna have to, you're gonna have to show us you can take care of these kids again. So it's gonna be a very long time. But in the meantime, they'll be allowed to visit with the kids. It'll be under probably supervision. So they won't be allowed to take the kids on their own anywhere. If they go anywhere, it'll be with, his Kayla's family is the ones who have custody of him probably right now. Um, like a third party adult is going to have to be around them for quite a while.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I hope they get it fixed. But part of it getting fixed is admitting there's a problem, and until you start doing that, there's nothing to do.
Well, and Nick kind of hasn't really shown any sign of that showing there's a problem yet. So, I mean, I guess we can talk a little about that.
Yeah. Oh
Do you,
boy.
yeah. So look, I mean, Nick
Have
has
you guys seen those DMs?
the leaked DMs. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw them. I don't look. I'm not sure. Are we? I mean, we can talk about them. I'm not sure we want to bring them up, but
Yeah, well,
look,
I'm just saying in general, like, yes, I don't think he's at the point where he's willing to admit something's wrong at this
right.
point.
But in his YouTube, I mean, in his YouTube career, he does have. And look, you were just talking about this defamation case that he's in. Like he does have a habit of like doubling down, tripling down,
Well,
quadrupling down.
yes.
So
Yes, he has a he likes to say it's ODD, and in reality that's just being stubborn and obnoxious. But yes, he has a I won't do what you tell me streak running through him.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So that's that's where it's like, and sadly though, using reverse psychology won't work. 'Cause you tell him, no, Nick, we want you to drink more. He's like, okay. So it doesn't work.
Right.
It's not like Homer and Bart.
He's gonna do what he wants to do,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Well, and that's something, I learned from a wise man a long time ago. A man does what a man wants to do. So,
Hmm.
well, if he does it, that's obviously what he wants.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that was there anything that interesting in the DMs? 'Cause, I mean, I did see them, but I didn't see anything.
I just think I think it's just if you aren't experienced with people who have been in addiction,
Hmm.
I think it's actually a very good way for people to see how addiction gets people. I know, for example, Kurt Uncivil Lot. Do you guys know him?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't talk to
It,
him, but I'm aware of his channel.
But
Yeah.
you know who he is. So he
Yeah.
went through like the search warrant yesterday, and he had not, he was completely blown away by it, and he actually had a bit of a moment there where he's like, I didn't recognize any of these things, but he hadn't been around people or dealt with addiction before. So if you've never been around it, you aren't recognizing it.
Hmm.
And if you haven't recognized it, yeah, the way he's acting right now, Nick, not Kurt, um, is yeah, he's a guy in the middle of denial ain't just a river,
Right.
and
Right.
he is really fighting it.
Well, I mean, I would hope that as some kind of plea deal shapes, that would allow, maybe psychologically to start to accept things, right? It's not just being this like attack, attack, attack mode where you actually worry that you're going to go to jail.
I think one would hope so, but I think
Hmm.
even Nick realizes because he's already retained counsel, from what I understand. Um, the odds are already in his favor of like things turning out okay. But I still think Nick thinks there's a way to beat this.
Like completely beat it.
Yeah, I think so. The way like he's from and he's this is nothing what I'm saying is stuff I've already seen people talking about who are involved in the league in this DM group Nick is in, that he knows who did it, he knows who set him up, he's got names, and this is all a setup. There's and just Nick's locals posts where there's so much more truth that's out there.
Hmm.
He thinks it's like Robert Barnes, it's all a conspiracy. It's like, okay, let me know when you're ready to show me your work because I'm curious to know what you think. And
Right.
I think at some point Nick is probably going to realize it's not, and hopefully he does. If he doesn't, and he just keeps huffing copium all day, I think I've had clients that do that too,
Hmm.
and you explain to them like you got to stop, and they're like, no, I want the copium, and
So,
okay,
right. So I'm gonna go back to the Barnes thing for a second.
yeah,
So, yesterday someone tweeted out they tagged you, Nick Barnes,
yeah,
and Joe, and they said,
yes,
"Sounds like the child's welfare was used as a pretext to search for contraband to me. Search
hmm
should have stopped once the children were accounted for otherwise." And to which you
hmm
responded, "No, they saw Nick displaying signs of drug use and used the 521 stream as proof. Nick fucked himself." Was
yeah,
the 521 stream, is that the stream that like
yes,
he didn't
that's
realize
the
the
last
camera was
one.
on and he was like
Yeah, that's the
shaking?
last one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Okay,
the
that's
one
so
where that's.
that was in the search warrant.
Oh yeah, in the search
Okay.
warrant, they and it's funny because the cop mentions he's like, well, it was deleted off YouTube and Rumble, so I found it somewhere else, which
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Right, right.
which makes you wonder where he went. I kind of have an idea where he went.
Well, I mean, it was. Oh, you think they found the whole stream, or you
Oh
just the
yeah,
clip?
well, oh no, he found the whole stream because he
Oh,
found all
okay.
4 hours and 4 minutes of it.
Where was the whole
Um,
stream? Where do you think it was?
oh, it's on the farms. It got
It was on Kiwi
archived like
Farms, is
as
what you're saying.
yeah, it would get
Okay,
archived
gotcha.
as soon as it happened.
Right, right, right.
And Nick had left up like his bit shoot for a while, but Nick sanitized it in a lot of places. So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Okay,
no, they saw it, and yeah, it's a the idea that it's a pretext. It wasn't the pretext. It's just how the investigation started,
right.
and that's how things start off. It's like a little. Normally, it's just like you get a tip or you get a call, or an officer's driving by and they see something, and then that officer leaves a note with the detective like, "Hey, I saw this," and then from there, "Oh, cool, something happened. What is this?" And they look into it, and then they do a little research, and then they look into something else, and you were like, "Oh, look, I found this. Now I found this. Now I found this," and you start building up the wall.
Right. So after you responded that way, Robert Barnes responded to you
Yeah.
saying, "You're a grifting joke. Stick to analyzing anime."
For
So I
some
guess
reason,
this.
I think he thinks I'm legal mindset, but
Oh, is that because what is the
I
anime
don't. I
comment?
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I don't really know if he knows because I haven't really interacted with Robert Barnes too much.
Because you
So
responded, "Anime sucks," which
yes.
I saw that and I'm like, I don't think we should invite this guy on the channel. I mean, he doesn't like
Well,
anime.
I was trying to
Jesus.
do like Nick said, anime sucks. Cope and Sneed. If you haven't seen the clip of him when he's
I
somebody.
haven't now.
Oh, there's this. Well, so in the middle of when Nick said, this is how bad it got. He read the same super chat like 11 times.
Was this on the 521 stream?
Yes, the stream. Yes,
And
the
he just like
stream.
didn't realize he was reading the same.
Oh God, he was by that point. He's like
Oh my God. This is
so bad. Like
insane.
he's
Yeah.
slumped. Well, the coke's burned off.
Hmm.
Like because he came back from his break and he took off like a rocket,
Right.
and then very quickly it burned off, and the alcohol took back over,
Hmm.
and he's slumped over in the chair, and he's like, and he's squinting at his screen. And one of the super chatters was anime sucks Cope and Sneed. So
Was the name of that was the person's name?
yeah.
Oh gee. So he just kept
So he
saying
kept on
it.
saying
Oh
anime
my
sucks Cope
God.
and Sneed for $5. And he keep reading the super chat.
Okay.
And that's why when somebody said false, I said Cope and Sneed afterwards.
Gotcha. Well, first of all, anime, you got to take that back. I want to hear you officially take back that anime sucks.
I am not going to be
Look at
struggle session
this.
here.
Wow.
I
Look
will
at
not
this
be.
guy. Look at this. Look at this piece of shit. Okay.
I know. Just
I
piece of
suddenly
shit
lose
lawyer.
all faith in everything you've said so far. Okay,
Yeah.
but so when Robert Barnes responded to you saying you're a grifting joke, was that the first reaction? Is that your first interaction about this?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And I think so. And I'm like, I don't understand why people are so. I get it when the normies out there don't get how this all plays out.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get it. You guys all get a pass from me because that's
Well, we're
okay.
just schmucks.
We're
No, you're
not
normies. Like
normies. What are you talking
you.
about?
There's some the things you know better than me. I hope you'd give me a pass on.
No, well, I mean the
Uh,
anime thing I don't give you a pass on, but
I'll bear that burden.
yeah. But yeah, of course.
So
So yeah, so you're
yes,
saying, but Robert Barnes does know about legal stuff.
yeah, like
Yeah.
he knows he's done this stuff. The idea that he's going around there screaming and telling people like Lawrence Tribe, he's a Harvard law professor who um is a really bad anti-Trump person. And you can be an attorney and not like Trump, but this guy runs around screaming like his hair's on fire every 5 minutes about something. And Robert Barnes is basically doing the same thing,
Hmm.
screaming and running around like his hair's on fire. It's like, dude, this is a fairly solid search warrant. Maybe there's something you could pick apart at the end of the day, but I think it's pretty good overall. It's very solid. It's well rounded. It lays out exactly what happened and the progression of their investigation. You might be able to challenge. You know, is the idea that there was drug use there, that he's a drug recognition expert. That might be where they're going to hammer him, this
Hmm.
detective on. But that's going to be it. The rest of it, the child neglect issues led to the drug use and revealed the drug use. So
Right.
that's how it goes, and that's normally what happens. A traffic stop leads to a search, and that search reveals something. It's so otherwise that's like saying I went to prison for 20 years because of a speeding ticket. No, I went to prison because I was speeding, and then they searched my car and found like a bale of marijuana.
Right.
That's
Right. Right.
yeah.
I see Uncivil Law in the chat. Hey, Uncivil Law
Yeah.
saying
Hi, Garrett.
Cowboy Bebop is pretty solid. Look, Uncivil Law knows what's up. Okay.
Yeah.
What's going on here? What's going on here, Sean? You need to get your head on straight.
Yeah, what
Yes.
anime have you seen, Sean, that made you believe anime is terrible?
Well, does Does Dragon Ball Z count as anime?
Of course, that's like the
That's awful.
quintessential.
That is awful.
Oh my god! What?
Like, okay, here's
Oh,
every Dragon Ball
nice,
Z episode.
nice.
Two guys. Here's every Dragon Ball Z episode. Two guys fly at each other. There's like an explosion, and then they
Yes.
punch each other through mountains. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, and it's glorious. What are you, full of
like-
estrogen? Yes, that's what it is. It's shirtless men screaming at each other and punching each other through mountains. What's wrong with that?
I mean, it's the same thing like with comic books. I'm just not a comic book guy.
Oh my god! I can't.
See, I was a
believe it.
13-year-old boomer. I was reading like Tom Clancy instead of comic books.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah. How old were you when you were watching Dragon Ball Z? Like, if you're an
Probably, like-
adult now, I get it. You're not gonna like
Yeah,
it.
I was
but-
probably like 11 or 12. I think one of the kids I knew in school watched it, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
You
like,
didn't
I
like
guess.
Dragon Ball Z when you were 11?
Yeah, I didn't.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
But see,
Oh
if
my
I had seen,
God.
if I had seen something like Evangelion at the time, I'd have been like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Evangelion's terrible. Oh my
Really?
god. Yes.
See, like, I
Is
actually like
Evangelion-
see,
That's anime, right?
yeah.
It is anime.
So you can't say all anime sucks.
No, I mean, but a lot of it does.
Right. Okay. Look, he doesn't like Dragon Ball Z.
You don't like the high T testosterone masculine men beating each other up, but you like Shinji depressed pussy getting the robot, daddy issues anime. Ugh. Terrible.
I'm a man of many contradictions.
Okay. So anyway, moving off the anime for a second. So
Yes.
after that interaction,
Yes.
Robert Barnes quote tweeted you saying, "Never hire this grifter for your defense lawyer. Only reason guy's got a channel is because of Rekieta, whom he is now
Yes.
grifting off of attacking.
Mhm.
Only a constitutionally illiterate idiot would say you can get a search warrant of someone's home based on interpreting a podcast." To which you replied, "Yep, he helped me, and then I made my own way. Let me know when you expose the conspiracy to take Nick down. I'm sure the halls of power in Minnesota tremble at Nick's alcoholism. I'm sure you'll have the governor's scalp in no time flat." Okay, there
Yes.
you go.
And this was the
Yes.
ratio tweet. This was the one
You
where you
ratioed
ratioed
him,
him.
yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I didn't even realize I ratioed them. So,
Well, you did.
oh, it's nice.
Okay, so what? Okay, I mean, someone said that like they're like, are you going to
A lot of
sue
people have made
Robert
that
Barnes for
comment.
defamation? Like, is
Well, but
that
I
Oh, that's
mean,
a little
even I
soy.
could, like,
That's a
why the
little
f-
soy. Don't do that.
that's like I got better things to do. Like I can go take a shit or something. Spend my time better.
okay? So
Like that, I don't
no
need to, like that.
lawsuits.
That would be very lol cow worthy in and of itself. It's like
It
I got other
would,
things I can
yes.
do.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
it's if you watch Reservoir Dogs, like Harvey Keitel says it best, like piss on that turd. Like oh wow, he called me like people said mean things. It's the fucking internet.
He calls you a grifter on the internet.
Yeah, okay, cool. I am grifting. Like
Wow. He admits it.
Look, it's
made a shitload
what's
of
wrong
money
with
since Nick
what's
got,
wrong
since
with
Nick got
grifting?
pinched. I made a shitload of money
There you go.
and a shitload of
Jesus.
views, like a
Right.
ton of views, almost like 100,000 views.
Oh my God. Look at that. Good for you.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just saying, like it is what it is.
did you have any interactions with Barnes, like really, like before this, like personally,
No,
privately?
like I think I
DMs?
had been on a stream or two with him on Nick's channel when
Right.
Barnes was on, but
So
that
this
was
is like kind of
it.
like out of the blue. You're like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
I was like, yeah, no, I'm like, what the fuck did I do? But a lot of people are upset. A lot of people are bringing up the loyalty thing, and loyalty is not a suicide pact.
Mhm.
And I don't, I'm loyal to people, and those people would never, the people I'm loyal to, I never, they would never ask me about that loyalty or demand the loyalty. People, if you're truly loyal to somebody, it's there. It's without question. You never doubt it.
Mhm.
I mean,
Have you
that's what
taken
loyalty is.
Have you taken a Jonathan Haidt moral foundation test? I bet you score like very low in loyalty, like just 0.
Actually, I can be very, there have been times in my life where my loyalty was a problem.
Oh, you were
like
too
being loyal to a
loyal.
fault. Yeah. Not
Wow.
willing to just, cut ties and
Right.
something.
You're being interviewed for a job, and they're like, "What's your biggest fault?" And you're like, "I'm too loyal."
What is what has Nick done for you that he deserves all of this?
Well, I mean, at the time, and
Okay.
and it's funny because I could say it now. It's like 2 years ago. It was in April. It was like April 7th or 8th. I know that because of my calendar. I had a trial like in the afternoon after it. He invited me on, and I was like at like 800 subs, but I'd gotten all my watch hours because I'd streamed a trial and done some things, and I'd done a bunch of stuff before this, but I couldn't get over like 1,000 subs. And
Hmm.
he had me on, and before the show was over, I was over like 1,000 subs, so I got monetized because of Nick. And then
Nice.
he had like then Johnny Depp happened, and I got on the Johnny Depp, and yeah, I got a lot of people like, okay, yeah, he's on here, cool, I'll click subscribe. And a lot of people who watch me now are people who used to watch Nick or still do watch Nick. So yeah, he helped me, sure. But I've made, the idea that without Nick I wouldn't be where I'm at now, I think it's a little preposterous because it's been so long. And I think I do good enough at
Hmm.
like, my product is that good now. Sure, if this was 3 months after everything happened, oh yeah, Nick would totally be responsible for what happened. But that's a long time ago. And because you've done one thing for me does not mean I'm forever loyal. Like I'm forever in your debt,
I wonder if
especially
you
for something
had.
like this.
No, and I agree, obviously. Even if someone
Mhm.
does help you up substantially, that doesn't mean you should, necessarily like
Yeah,
lie for them or anything like that.
yeah.
Um, but I wonder if like with your reply, if your reply had been, let's say, more tonally sensitive, right? Like if you had said the same thing, but you didn't say like Nick fucked himself, like if Barnes
But
maybe wouldn't have gotten so triggered.
I maybe, but when it comes to this stuff, I think they'd already been dealing with a lot of cope,
Hmm.
and on Twitter, I don't have time for that. You know, I,
Okay.
there's a lot of my comments start off like honey, comma, and then I bring up something, or I'll end it. It's people I've already been dealing with people like mad I wasn't sweeping up for Nick, and it's like, well, and I had been fairly neutral at that point. So for somebody like Robert Barnes to come out and spurg out like that when I've been pretty level headed about it, just saying, guys, here's the lay of the land. This is the
Hmm.
real world. All these things we're talking about, this is how it applies now. And people are screaming and losing their minds. I'm like, well, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to suffer fools that way. I was pretty impartial about and fair in the analysis, but I was also fair enough to say, yeah, this isn't good. This is really bad. What's happened here? I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's all a conspiracy or listen. I'm not going to sit here like it's like the first 48 and some ladies out in the street screaming, my baby didn't do nothing. It's like, no, no, we're not playing that game.
I mean,
Like
that'd be
this isn't
fun
all
though.
made up. I said it, and even on the farm, somebody said too. If 50% of this is true, this is absolutely horrible. If
Hmm.
15% of it is true, this is absolutely horrible.
Right.
I mean, if 5% of it's true, it's horrible. So it's like, oh, and I think Nick's statements of like, oh, you guys don't really know everything. Well, tell what don't I know? Out of my experience and education and training that would make this better because I don't see it. And I'm willing to admit I may not be the smartest guy in the world. I may not be the best attorney in the world. Maybe I missed it, but I don't see anything here where I would sit there and say, "Oh God, I was wrong," or that.
I
It's
mean,
just I,
I
I
think
was
if
kind of
you
tired of the bullshit at that point, really,
Right,
too.
I understand. I think if you appreciated Dragon Ball Z, you'd be able to understand where
Oh
Robert
my
Barnes is
God,
coming from, right?
no.
You know.
All I know is there's somebody named Vegetable or something like
Oh
that, and
my God,
then
look at the
people eat
soy here.
ramen. Like people
Soy on
are.
display.
Oh, I see people like I saw college kids wearing shirts where like the guys are eating ramen and they are eating ramen, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't eat
ramen's
ramen, so
delicious.
it's all cringe. Like
You
I
don't like
just,
ramen? You don't like ramen either?
yeah, I don't.
Do you like sushi?
Yes, I like sushi.
Okay, but you don't like ramen.
Oh God, I eat
Jesus.
this. I'll eat some good. I eat. Doesn't look like it, but I'll eat some good. I'll eat some
You'll
sushi.
pack
I'll eat
away
the
the
hell out of
sushi.
sushi. Yeah,
So I see
I'll eat some
Barnes.
sushi.
Yeah, I see Barnes. He's on Twitter currently, and he's still saying. He said this 50 minutes ago. He said something LawTube struggles with, but as Law 101 for the Fourth Amendment, only facts and the search warrant affidavit can be considered to assess the probable cause sufficiency of the warrant. You don't get to add facts not in the warrant and claim probable cause.
Well, we can look at the affidavit for the search warrant. There's a
Right.
lot of probable cause in there. And a lot of these facts are in the search warrant affidavit. So I don't know what he's. I
He also
There's
said
no
if
hard and fast standard for probable cause, right? I mean, it's
well,
just like you said, a lot of different things converge on a hypothesis.
well, yeah. There's no magic formula where like if I could show X, Y, and Z, I've done it.
Right.
Sometimes
Yeah.
probable cause could be one action. Like I saw something happen, or we have proof of like one thing happening, and that establishes probable cause.
Right.
Um,
They witness the crime. Yeah.
yeah,
Obviously, that's a one thing.
yeah,
But if they don't witness the crime, it's a accumulation of
sure.
circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, and
so.
it's
Mhm.
every time you're just throwing weight on the scale, and eventually you'll tip the scale. It's just how much weight is it, and you don't know how heavy those things are. You don't
Right.
So
know.
Yeah.
this is Barnes's
Hmm.
argument. He's saying the cop talked to one person only. The cop, which would be the
Hmm.
pastor. The cop then claimed that person told him what other people said, all of whom were not
Hmm.
identified. This is like when Cohen claimed 7 people confirmed Trump knew about
Hmm.
Stormy Daniels. Fourth hand hearsay isn't
Hmm.
reliable evidence. And then after that, he said, if we let cops raid your home because they claim they can identify intoxication by illegal substance without actually seeing illegal substance or use of that substance, then the Fourth Amendment is dead in America. Imagine what the FBI would do with that. Quote, your tweets, Mr. Jones, provide illegal substance use, and we must now raid your home. Trust us, we're experts on such matters. So, how do you feel about those
Yeah,
I'd say,
Sean.
arguments?
Why do
Robert,
you
have
hate
you
the
have you
Fourth
ever dealt
Amendment?
with a DUI yet? They can tell, like they can. I think you've done drugs. I'm arresting you for DUI. I think you've drank alcohol. I'm arresting you for DUI. And they don't necessarily have that. Like it looks like it. It looks like you've done drugs. Like your pupils are dilated.
Mm-hmm.
You don't smell like. Let's say you did cocaine. They could say you're exhibiting signs of drug use, and they'll arrest you and charge you with DUI without
Right.
proof you've consumed a drug. It's like it happens all
So,
the time.
Barnes's argument is like, okay, so you have one
Mhm.
person, he goes to the
Yes.
police, and he said the pastor goes to the police and says, I've heard multiple reports from these other people. And then the
Yes.
police turn around and they look at Nick's streams and they say,
Yes.
okay, he looks like he's on drugs in these streams. And then that's
Yeah.
the basis of a search warrant. And that's
Well,
acceptable, right? Or no?
here's what Robert Barnes saying.
Hmm.
He's trying to argue these people aren't reliable. The police really didn't do anything. Okay, so the pastor said, like, these guys have all changed. Everything's weird now.
Hmm.
The detective, and I can bring up the search warrant application, he says, like, I looked on there and like, oh my God, these people really have changed. Like, there's verification to the story.
What do you mean?
Like, he's like, I verified it with my own eyes. Oh my God, Nick looks like a scarecrow.
Who said that?
The detective, like he says, oh my gosh, I fired up YouTube and started looking through from January to today.
Hmm.
There's been a drastic change in Nick's physical appearance.
I see. All right. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
okay.
His own
he
eyewitness testimony.
Right.
well he was able to verify these. Like I said, hearsay is good as long as you can show it's true.
Hmm.
Well, people are saying it's true. Like people said Nick is acting all erratic and crazy, and yeah, Nick is acting erratic. Guys, like, I've watched these videos. He's acting erratic and crazy. And I don't know if you guys have seen the time lapse photos of him
I haven't,
from
no.
like January or December of last year till today.
Hmm.
Ooh, just
So,
fire up some of his old streams. Like he's a different looking guy.
right.
So he can say
So
that. And
when
he notices that Nick is drinking a shitload. And you don't, and he's probably going to say, in my experience, you don't just drink like that for 3 or 4 hours a night and call it good. And once you're that point, you're probably doing that all the time. Like Nick's also admitted before he's been super trashed, slept for like 2 hours and drove his kids around.
Mhm.
And then you get to the final stream where he's trash and he comes out and he's all, whited up. Well, we're starting to make, and that's coupled with what Aaron says. Like we're doing coke. There's all kinds of coke there. Yeah, it's
Was Aaron saying any of those comments? Was any of Aaron's comments
yes,
in the search report?
prior.
And was that
Yeah.
in
Oh
the
yeah, he's
search?
yeah here. I don't know how we can bring it up. I don't
We
know
could
how we
read it,
can.
but
Well, I was just gonna say you could show it because it shows it, and it's
mhm.
like hold on here. Let me read through part of it here. He says, because like part of the search warrant, he talks about the Imholtz and how he's familiar with them because of the Steel Toe morning show.
Mhm.
That he says that there was it appears they had a falling out, but Aaron says he experimented with cocaine a couple of times and Molly a couple of times in the recent past. And, he says that it's, he implies a heavy drug use is going on.
It says in
And
the search warrant, it says,
yeah,
your affidavit start your aff your you wait. The blogs are commonly related to legal issues and high-profile trials.
we
Is that
got
what
to
you're saying?
stop there. We got to stop there. I
What?
am so like, I want to go find this cop and punch him in the
Because he
face.
said blogs.
I am not a blogger. I would rather he labeled me as a member of Al Qaeda than as a blogger. That is so
Wow.
offensive. That is so.
Okay.
Next, he's gonna call me a redditor or something. Like
Right.
This
Right.
is
Wow,
that hurts so
okay.
much.
What do you
Interesting.
prefer, YouTuber?
Streamer,
Yeah, or a content creator. It's almost
podcaster.
like the Good Doctor, that meme where he's like, "I am a surgeon," and it's like, "No, you're not." It's like, "Yes, I am." It's like, "No,
Video
Okay.
blogger is the boomer term. That was
I
like
know,"
the
but I'm like,
It's
it
pretty
yeah.
hurts
offensive. Yeah.
so much.
Okay. So this blogger is
This video
commonly related
blogger.
to
Yeah.
legal issues and high-profile trials. As Nick is a licensed attorney, Nicholas is known to drink alcoholic beverage in excess on these video blogs. I immediately know that Nicholas's appearance in recent months has changed. In videos from January 2024 compared to May of 2024, Nicholas appears to have lost weight, appears tired, and overall appears, quote, strung out, common with a controlled substance user. Nicholas commonly refers to, quote, his studio as his basement and his own residence. Nicholas has been the victim of swatting phone calls. It is known to your affiant?
Affiant, because this is an
Affiant.
affidavit.
Okay.
So
And the Candy
Candy Ojai.
County, Candy Yohai Sheriff's Office because of these calls.
Mm-hmm.
While reviewing Imholte's social media video blogs, Aaron recently indicated that he and April are getting divorced. Aaron goes on to say that he has experimented with cocaine 3 times and Molly 6 or 7 times in the past.
Mm-hmm.
On December 19th, 2023, the Imoltes broadcasted a podcast from Rekieta's studio, with the podcast being named live from Spicer. Throughout his video blog, it is apparent that they and Rekieta were friends and may have recently had a falling out. It should be noted that in the recent videos of Imoltes, April has at times also appeared tired, lethargic, and strung out as well. In both their video blogs from Rekieta's studio, they really like blogs. It is apparent that they are in the same room. The items in the background are the same. Blah blah blah. At one
Yeah.
Blog.
That one's just to show they can verify Nick was actually in his studio when he did all this on the 21st.
right, and that Aaron
Because
was there
otherwise you
too.
could say it could be a green screen.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it says on 5/22/24, Emote did a video blog. So this is after the video
Yes, that was the
of
morning
Nick.
after.
Okay. Did a video blog where he talked about Nicholas and insinuated controlled substance use, and also referenced a video blog that Nicholas put out online on 5/21 that had been since taken off the internet.
Oh.
Imholte indicates that this blog that Nicholas needs help and needs to get help for his kids because of his substance abuse. Aaron points out at a time in the video where Nicholas has a white powdery substance on his nose. Okay, do you
Yes.
think if Aaron hadn't done that, do you think they would have still gone forward with this?
It would have hurt them a little. I don't know if this judge would have granted it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the judge probably would have, because the rest of it, there's a lot of, they can claim it, but I'm not sure the judge would have granted. I think Aaron talking gave them that's, I would argue that's the specificity and the veracity of their sourcing. That
Mm-hmm.
this guy can say, yes, they've done it. And then Aaron let loose that they had brought drugs into his house because they come over to his house with drugs. And Aaron's like, absolutely not. I don't want to lose my kids
He
because he's
said, did he?
divorced.
I heard him say this on Kino afterwards, but did
Yeah.
he say this on the 22nd before all this?
Oh, yeah. This was this. Oh, he went off.
Mm-hmm.
He was screaming like a madman on his show. He was mad.
So this could all be Aaron's fault.
Well,
Sort
I
of.
mean, it's a lot of it's going to be there. Now, at the very
Right.
least, even if this hadn't been enough to get a search warrant, they
Mm-hmm.
probably would have got a call from Children's Services. I think this would have been enough to have them call out and investigate.
When you say
So they
call,
would have
like
got
a
a
phone call, or like they actually show up to the house?
oh no, like children's services would have knocked on the door and been like,
Right.
"Hi, I'm from children's services. We'd like to talk.
Hmm.
Can we come in and take a look? We'd like to see how the kids are doing." And
Do
they
they
would
have a
try to do an
right to
investigation.
like go in your bedroom?
Well, they can ask.
What if you just say no?
Well, then they're kind of stuck, and then they
Right.
might go get a warrant because
Right, but
children's
then you
services
could
would never.
get rid of whatever you have,
Well,
right?
yeah, and at that point, but they might be able to say, like, they could peek in the window and see, "Oh my God, the house is a mess,"
Yeah, sure, but
or
that's, house of the mess is
you
different
know,
than like we found
well,
a
yeah, but
giant
at
bag of
that point,
cocaine.
that yes, but that's then it starts the investigation of what's going on. And they could
Hmm.
verify certain things. So, yes, if Aaron hadn't talked, I think this probably wouldn't have gotten as far as it did.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
Because otherwise you have Nick with stuff on his nose, but you don't know specifically what it is.
Hmm.
I- I'd like to think the court wouldn't have granted it, but I don't know. I don't know.
So, okay, so to be clear, so it was on May 16th that is when they first got this report. So they were
Hmm.
sort of looking into this.
Yep.
Wow. So, okay. So, Nick really fucked himself with that one stream, because if they just got that report and then Nick didn't have that stream where he was like blasted out of his mind, then,
I'd agree.
they wouldn't have that as evidence. But then also Aaron might not have been motivated, because I'm assuming that his stream about this was all in
Well,
response to that stream. So if that didn't happen,
it
none of
was
this might
that,
have
but it was
happened.
also kind of the boiling over to the fact that basically April had left Aaron and was over there basically,
Doing
playing with the Nick
drugs
Sweener and
and
bailed on
having
him.
sex with Nick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that was kind of boiling over for Aaron. But yes,
Hmm.
had Nick not done what he did that night and had just gotten high off screen because he was gone for 45 minutes, so he could have done that and
Right.
just came back out and just kept acting like a drunk mess. Yeah, this none of this would have happened. I don't think. I don't think they would have had any probable cause at that point.
Says on the 22nd of
But
May.
that's how critical the pieces are.
Right. Right. Says on the 22nd of May, they were reviewing the video that was taken off of Nick's YouTube and Rumble that was from the
Hmm.
day before. So they watched Aaron's video. Then after they
Hmm.
watched Aaron's video, they went and found, maybe on Kiwi Farms or some other
Hmm.
place,
Yep.
the removed video of Nick looking blasted out of his mind.
Hmm.
And they watched it and they said, um,
And that
in
could
his,
be another challenge for the defense because they could say, "Well, where'd you find it? You didn't find it from the original spot. How do you know it wasn't redacted or chopped or clipped or edited?"
right, but if they just produce it and it's like, could they, I mean,
Well, they could
what would
try
be
to
the argument
subpoena
there?
Rumble or YouTube and saying, "Do you still have it?" and get
Hmm.
it from them. But
I'm assuming
yes, if
they
I'm the defense
don't,
attorney, I'd say,
but
Detective Sitch, you watch this video,
right,
but it wasn't on the actual accounts. It was somewhere else. You don't know if it was edited, clipped, filtered,
right.
anything.
It was
The
deepfake
problem,
AI. Okay.
yeah, it could have been, but your
Right.
your response is going to be it got deleted everywhere.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's where I think the cop would respond back, and I think the court would say, "Well, that's a fair argument. He destroyed the evidence, so
Right. Okay.
we got to
Uh,
find it."
Says Nick appears in the video to be drinking alcoholic beverages, eventually appears under the
Yeah.
influence of substance or substances. The entire video blog, Jesus, is 4 hours and 4 minutes
Yes,
long.
it is.
Approximately 2 hours and 46 minutes in the video, Nicholas leaves to go up to the restroom. When he returns at 2 hours and 50 minutes, he appears to be making an excited look and has a white powdery substance on his nose.
Yeah.
They believe his behavior is indicative of a central nervous system stimulants. Believes based on training experience as well as the behavior of Nicholas that he ingested this white powdery substance through his nasal cavity while off camera. Well, I mean, I don't think you need expertise when he comes back and it's like white
Well,
stuff literally on his nose, right?
but this is the thing. When you read the warrant, you have to explain it to the judge
I
like David
understand. I
Chapter 5.
understand.
Yeah, but
I
that's
get it.
like
I get
based
it.
upon
Yeah.
my training, snorting is where you take a straw and yes. But that's the cringe part about warrants. There's so much where you're like, oh my god, this is so like dry.
Right. They continue saying Nicholas is so under the influence of the substance to the point he has to close one eye to read his screen, rambles, and slurs his speech. Nicholas would obviously not be able to care for his children in this state of intoxication. Okay,
Yes.
so I guess would it help to sort of think of this as like there's three categories of evidence that they used for the search warrant. There was the original report from the pastor is one category.
Hmm.
Then there's the second category of what Aaron said. So Aaron is kind of making this claim against Nick. And then the third category is them looking at Nick's videos and using that for their own determination, right?
I think that's a fair way of looking at it. That's the progression of it. They learned about, oh, we learned there's something wrong in the Rekieta house. Okay, and as
Mhm.
things go on, you find out, oh, hey, what's crazy old man Imholt talking about? Oh, he's talking about the Rekieta house too. Okay. And then they go look up what's going on with Nick, and they're like, woof. And it
Right.
seems like all the claims from the church and Aaron they're checking those off as they watch Nick. So
Right.
Nick was the confirmation of a lot of the claims.
Right. Because I'm just trying to think of this in terms of like Barnes's argument. So
Hmm.
if if the pastor never made that report to the police, would these other two categories of evidence, I mean, obviously it wouldn't be in the police's radar necessarily, but just say
Yeah.
somehow it was, would these other
Oh,
two pieces of evidence be enough for them to do the search warrant, do you think?
probably not. Probably not
Okay.
because Nick, you like you guys say, it's a comedy show. You don't know,
Right.
you don't know for sure what that is. At that point, Aaron by himself has got a lot of bias and he's got a lot of
Hmm.
issues that, yeah, he's sitting there, but he also admitted his wife left him for Nick.
Right.
He basically got cucked out of the, swinging group they were in, and he ended
Hmm.
up becoming a real life Janny because he admits to like spending time like when he wasn't there doing drugs at the house helping like the kids clean up. So
Right.
he was literally, you know, he became a real life Janny.
Hmm.
Yes,
So, right.
I don't think that on its face would be enough. I mean, certainly you could argue a million different things like how do you know that's coke? How do you know he did it there? You don't there's too much unknown.
Well, no, and all these unknowns, and we're just talking about in terms of a search warrant. All those
Yeah, yeah,
unknowns
no,
would be
that's what I
enough to
mean.
not get a search warrant,
If
right?
I was the prosecutor and they came to me with that, it was just what Aaron said and Nick did, I would say no, that's not enough.
Okay.
And
Um,
I would hope a judge says that's not enough too.
right. And even if a judge did say it was enough, you think it, well, I guess question, okay, so let's say theoretically there was no passer complaint. It was just what Aaron
Mhm.
said and then looking at the stream, and then
Yeah.
the judge signed off a search warrant, and then they find exactly what they find. Would it be a good case for them to say that they never should have the search warrant in the first place?
Yeah, I think that it was not properly granted. I think it was improperly granted. They didn't have enough probable cause.
Hmm.
And even if they found something, you can't use the results of your subsequently executing the warrant to justify your actions previous. Because
Right.
yeah,
So it
now
doesn't
you can
matter what they
verify.
find as long so if the
Yeah,
search so if you can prove the search warrant should never have been granted, it doesn't matter what they find, you're off.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Because also think about it this way though. Let's say they searched the house and they found nothing.
Right.
Does that mean the warrant itself is bad? Well, not necessarily. They could have had some bad information or, things could have been moved around or they just didn't find it. That doesn't
Now,
mean their warrant was bad.
right. Does that apply to any crime? Like if they had a bad search warrant and then they
Yeah.
find like a dead body, like what happens?
Well, it depends. I mean, you would argue without them finding without the warrant, they would have not been able to get in the house. Therefore, they would have never found the body.
Right.
So that's all I would argue, and that's all fruit of the poisonous tree. Because but for this warrant, you would have never found the body.
Okay. So it applies to
So
anything.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
okay.
So if they
Gotcha.
come in there and they find a Chinese intelligence listening post sitting inside the basement, you wouldn't have found that otherwise. It's gone.
I mean, yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think the FBI or I guess the CIA would be a little bit interested at that point, but
Yes, but well, other things may happen, like you might get
sure.
renditioned. But yes,
Right.
if you can't, anything you found as a result of that search would be inadmissible
Okay.
because without that search, you would never have found it.
Okay. So you think without the pastor, it wouldn't be enough. And then you already said you think without Aaron making his statement, so it's just the pastor statement and just looking at Nick's videos, you don't think that would be enough either, right, for the search warrant?
No, no. You
Okay.
can say, yeah, there's something wrong here, but that would be probably in the report, like referred to children's services.
Right. So okay, so but what if we
Or they
had
might like they could go out on their own and do a welfare check.
right.
And the detective would say, "Hey, I'm with the sheriff's office. We're just checking in. How you guys doing? Doing okay?" And then let's say Nick comes to the door and he's just got the white nose. He's like, "Oh, what?" And you know he looks under the use of under the influence of drugs. That now changes the story. But they could
Okay, so
always
wait,
do a
wait.
consensual encounter.
Okay, so wait, let me get this straight. So
Yeah.
in this hypothetical, we're
Yeah.
removing Aaron's story.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Sure.
So, but we still have the 521 stream. So the police
Yes.
knock on his door. They don't break down the door. They knock on his door to do a wellness check. If Nick opens the door and appears to be on drugs,
Yeah.
that changes the calculus. What happens at that point?
Yeah. Well, that now the officer could say, I saw this guy in person and he had like, let's say he just had white all over his nose.
Well, let's
And
say he doesn't
yeah.
like. It's not so obvious that he has
Yeah.
white all over his nose,
Well,
but
that's
he
because if he
looks
just shows up drunk, drunk's not illegal.
right. Right.
So
Okay, but
that's
let's just
why
say
you would need it.
he just shows up and he seems intoxicated, but it's unclear what kind of intoxication.
Well,
Right when
that's
Nick
going to
opens the
hurt
door.
them because how do you
Right.
know it wasn't alcohol?
Right. So, but if they couldn't just like say, oh,
Because you
like
know his
let us in at that
primary.
point.
Well, they because they mentioned like my primary knowledge of him is that he drinks a lot. So
Right. Right.
you're kind of limited because well, what is he under? Well, you have to be able to specify with some reasonable certainty, like, okay, well, I can tell it's this or that or the other. So that's why I'm
Right.
bringing up the whole issue of if he looks like on the stream where he comes out and his nose is white, you could be like, now I verified it in person. Yes, he looks like he's doing coke.
So is the only problem with the stream not being enough evidence is that because as you were saying, it's you could be like, well, it's just an act, right? It's not
Yeah,
real. Okay.
it's hard to tell. It's hard to verify what it is.
Gotcha.
Who knows? Nick could have shoved his face in a pile of donuts. Nick could
Right.
have, smacked his face into some drywall.
Or he could have just been making it. He thought it was funny. He put
Yeah, or
some,
he could have been working on a ghost costume.
there you
And that was
go.
just the beginning, and he ran out of makeup.
So okay. So but let's say like Nick answers his door, he's drunk, but there's no or he appears trying out something, but he's not
Yeah.
doesn't have any sort of visible powder or anything like that.
Mhm.
Can the police like demand to go inside or can he
No, they
just say
can't
no?
demand to go inside at that point.
Okay.
But they could go back and then try to use that as more probable cause that there's drug use in the house.
Do you think that would be enough?
I still don't think that would be enough at that
Right.
point, but that would get him closer.
Right, but by that point he'd be notified and they were intelligent, they'd obviously clean the house of any sort of
You'd like to
thing.
think so, but
Right.
that's when you're an addict, you're like, you're not gonna get, my precious baby. You're not gonna, throw it down the toilet.
Well, okay, let me ask you a question. So like say
Yeah.
they did that. I
Yeah.
don't know if I should be giving this advice for people that hide drugs, but say they did that, okay?
Yeah.
And the police knock on the door and they're like, "Oh, can we come in?" And they say no, right?
Yeah.
Can they leave a cop like outside your house? So then, like, if they see someone leave, they like tail them to like the garbage dump, and if they throw a bag into the garbage dump, can they go get that bag?
Oh yeah, you could do that. Now they could. Now you're saying not on their property, but down around the street corner, like surveilling. Oh yeah, that's perfectly legal. You don't need a
And
warrant. You don't need a warrant to
Mhm.
surveil from like public property.
Okay, so you would actually be in a kind of a if you were in that situation. If they did that, you'd be in kind of trouble because they're gonna they're gonna surveil you to see if you're gonna like dump drugs somewhere, right?
Yeah, they could then follow them to the dump and then sit there and watch, and then after they drive off, the officer could say like, "Hey, I drove up to the spot and I saw what they did, and here's a picture of where I found it.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed there till the evidence crew came and picked it up, but yeah, it looks like
Right.
a baggie of drugs." And then if they found all that, that would definitely be. Then they like we tested it. It's coke. Okay, now you got your search warrant.
Interesting. Interesting.
So,
Okay.
but you see how it like you can build it, and now you've got a really good fact.
Right.
I watched them leave a house. They didn't stop anywhere, and they threw out drugs. Boom.
And but they did it with anything like say you left the house, you go to
Yeah.
McDonald's, right? You go inside, you eat your food, and
Well,
then you throw
now
your
you've got an issue of did he get the drugs at McDonald's? If you didn't see, how do you know?
Oh, okay. Interesting. Because I was wondering, like, could you be like, oh, you go inside, you eat McDonald's, then you sneak it into like McDonald's bag, you throw that in the McDonald's trash can, right? Could they
Yeah,
be
that
like,
could be an issue too.
they're
Yeah.
gonna be like, oh, we went. Could they stop
How
McDonald's
did
and be
that get
like,
there?
give us this?
That gets a little tough because now you have to make sure nobody else went in that garbage can, nobody touched it.
Right.
How do you know that those drugs didn't show up from, somebody working behind the counter like it's Breaking Bad?
Mm-hmm.
Like I lost whatever the Polos
Los
Hermanos.
Pollos, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some now I can make arguments where we're introducing like, well, what's true, what's reliable.
Right. Right. Okay. Listen, we're giving good advice for people.
Yeah. I'm trying to.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so then, okay, so say they had the pastor's complaint and they have Aaron's stories, but they don't have the video,
Of
specifically the
Nick,
video of 521 of Nick like out of it.
I
Is
think
that
they don't have
enough?
enough.
You don't think
No,
they have
because it's
enough?
just he's
Okay.
drinking hard.
Right, right. Even with the pictures of him seeming to grow gaunter, you don't think that's enough?
No, because it's just like he's drinking really bad. Like there's no law against drinking yourself to death.
Sure, but usually drinking doesn't make you like lose weight, right?
Well, I mean, he might have. Who knows what medical issues he's got at that point?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he
Okay.
could be, cirrhosis. He could have like. There's a
Right.
million different things it could be
Mm-hmm.
that you have to be able to rule out and explain. No, we know this isn't that.
Interesting. Okay, so we really need to have like all three of these factors come together
Yeah,
to allow the search warrant.
yeah. And this is one of these warrants where it's all very interconnected, and if you knock out one piece, it collapses. Now, there's other warrants, yeah, where there's enough there that you knock out a piece and it's fine.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, I am interested by it. So you think that would be the big flaw with Barnes's argument is that he's not really addressing the all three of these factors coming together to provide the search warrant.
Yeah, yes, all alone, they're not. Yes, all alone. Oh, well, the kids are dirty. The kids are hungry. Okay. Aaron says they do drugs. Okay. Well, Aaron sounds like a lunatic. Nick
Mm-hmm.
shows up on screen ranting and raving like a loon. Okay. That's like every day now. But now
Right.
when you roll all these together, you're like, okay, yeah, they look like people who are doing drugs all the time.
We
We've seen this
has
before.
I mean, is anyone going to debate Barnes on this, like on stream? Because that'd be wonderful to watch, right? Like,
I don't know.
do
I
you
don't
want to?
know.
Would you debate Barnes on this topic?
No, because he's already come out and been all histrionic and screaming and like
What do you mean? That'd be great content. He's screaming at you, saying you like
I
Dragon Ball Z,
if
and
I
you're
if
like,
I
no,
want
I
to get
don't.
if I want to go get yelled at, I can go piss off my fiance. I
Wait, it
mean
would be
that'd be
great. What do
much
you mean?
cheaper,
It'd be great for your
quicker.
views.
Yeah, don't you know how to
Yeah, but
blow your
I don't
channel
know.
up?
Yes. Could you imagine?
I,
I could just see you. I could see Barnes, red face, screaming at you. Super chats coming to your
yeah,
channel. Viva's kind of sitting in the middle, like
And
but
you
the
just
way
being
quietly. You know?
mellow. Oh
but
God,
Barnes is going to be sweeping for Nick no matter what, and
Yeah.
there's no way you win that argument
no,
with him.
no, this is like a
Barnes
win-win
isn't
for
going to all of a
you.
sudden say, "Oh my God, yeah, you're probably right."
It's not. Listen, it's not about convincing him. It's about like making money for your channel and also convincing
Yeah,
the audience,
well,
right?
Well, and it's about
I guess
him
that's where I'm
looking
not a good showman.
unhinged and crazy, and you
Okay.
looking just, calm, cool,
Calm.
and collected.
Right.
Which you
Yeah,
seem pretty calm, cool, and collected. I could see
well, it
Barnes
depends.
like yelling and screaming at you, and you just being chill.
Well, I mean, if Barnes got going, the problem is like
Oh, you
I've
would? You'd light up on him?
it's hard not to, and I ended up in a
Polycule?
discussion with somebody
Oh.
where it kind of ended up turning into a debate, and I really got out over my skis.
Oh, did you
And
really?
oh yeah, yeah.
Bring that clip up. Where is that?
Well, that's and it got to the point where I said things, and I'm like, I'm fine with them, mean them, but it's like, when I get into combat mode, it's like it gets really bad really quick. Like
Oh, okay.
I go straight to retard like at the drop of a hat at that point. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You become a retard, or you call them a retard?
I go straight to like being like full
Oh,
retard
okay.
of
Yeah.
like just all gas, no brakes, and
Hmm.
it's not
Interesting.
that doesn't help anybody. I'm sure it makes clicks, but I don't like doing that, and my better half is like,
Well, look, you gotta work through that. Being calm, cool, and collected is a way to win.
oh
So,
yeah, and
yeah.
generally it's not an issue. So,
Well, this
especially
would
it'd
be
be really
good at
rough to go into court, start screaming, going at the judge like "Ree" in the
it
middle
would
of
be
court,
good
but
engagement though if you could get Barnes to like go off on you, and you were just like,
it
okay, whatever, dude.
probably, but I don't. He can have fun, run around screaming and sweeping up for Nick, and then when it comes out, it's like, I mean, like I said, the search warrant's pretty solid. Does that mean it's invincible? No.
Hmm.
Everything could fail. Just the odds of this, I think, are going to be pretty low.
Would it be a judge to make the determination, or would a
Yes.
jury make that determination?
No. The judge would make a determination. This would be for in August 20th. They have what's
Right.
called an omnibus hearing.
Hmm.
Minnesota's a little weird in this regard. they don't have like a preliminary hearing where they determine the probable cause for the charges. They do it all at once. So they're going to have a hearing. Was there even probable cause to arrest Nick? Then they're going to talk about the search warrant. Can we suppress the search warrant? They're going to do all of that. They do all of that as one big thing. And then from there, if the judge says, nope, you had probable cause, the search warrant's good. All right, let's set a pre-trial and a trial date.
Okay.
So that's how they proceed out there.
King of Jerusalem for $5 says, I don't trust Sean. His Twitter bio says he's a Third Amendment absolutist. He's conspiring with the country to quarter a legion of ceiling cats in Nick's house. Is this true?
No. Nick's already got the ceiling cats. I don't need to put any more in there.
Okay. Okay, so you don't want to debate Barnes. Someone's got to debate Barnes with this on stream, right? Like, who's the champion? Who's going to be the champion to face the Barnes? Give me a name. Give me a name, Sean.
Give me a name. Yes, names. I don't know. I don't know who would be.
Is it going to be Nate? Nate versus
Nate. I think Nate'd be pretty good with Barnes, but I'm fine with just throwing elbows right here on Twitter. I mean, it works better that way. And I know and like your point about saying Nick fucked himself. I mean, but he did. Like, let's not mince words. Like, this is bad. He's, unless something happens, he's toast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that, like, I'm gonna call it how it is. That's what I do when I do my job. You come into my office initially and say, "Hey, I got charged with a crime." I'm like, "Cool, bro. Like, we'll figure this out." Right now, it's just them saying you did something. They don't actually approve.
Right.
Then when the proof rolls in, I'm like, "Oh boy," or I'll say, "Yeah, this is nothing."
Right, and obviously, there's no tone of voice on Twitter, so everyone perceives it that way. And if Barnes is like very emotional and upset, and he sees you saying, Nick fucked himself, he starts to see red and,
sure,
gets triggered.
Well, a lot of people have. A lot of Nick's viewers are mad that I'm not sweeping up for him, and I'm like, that's not what I do. I mean, the truth is the truth. These are, this is how the world works, guys.
Sure.
I mean, you literally said you didn't think he'd get any jail time. Like, I don't understand.
Like, what do you mean? Why I think he's toast? Like, they got him dead to rights.
No,
so
why is
they
Barnes
do, but
so triggered if he's not going to go to jail?
Yeah, look, and I don't understand why people would say
if he doesn't go to jail, there's a
him.
chance. There's a chance he walks out of this a felon, even if he doesn't go to jail. So that's the thing.
Right.
I mean, a felony's not something to sneeze at, and being on felony.
Yeah, like 5 years in prison. I'll take the felony, thank you. Like, well, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but it's, if you don't think he did it, and you think he's actually, you believe all this nonsense that it's all a scam and it's all a big plot, that would be very,
I think it's hard to argue that he didn't do it. I mean,
yeah, like
somewhere there is 27 grams of cocaine in an evidence locker.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. And I've said this before, and I'll say it as nicely as I can say it. It's like all the moms in the hood. My baby didn't do nothing. But the funny thing is, that happens out in the suburbs too. Oh, he didn't do it. Nobody would have done that. It's like, the idea of my baby didn't do it is a universal concept across society. And yes, it's because people like Nick. Oh, he wouldn't do that. It's like Vosh. Oh, he wouldn't go hump. He wouldn't let a horse screw him. Or he doesn't really like Lolly. They're just short stack goblins. Like it's, just insert whoever. Keffels didn't do that. Keffels didn't do this. Everybody, if you're willing to be realistic until it's your boy in the crosshairs, and then you're like, well, maybe not so much.
Right. Do you think Barnes would debate anyone on this topic?
Well, I'm sure he would, but it'd be like him just sitting there screaming, yelling about it. That's the thing.
I want to set this up. I want this stream so bad. Okay, I want Barnes versus somebody just screaming.
I don't know. Somebody might want to do it.
Well, I've messaged Barnes to come on the show. Barnes follows me and I follow him, but he's never responded to messages.
Well, Barnes hasn't blocked me, so that's also the weird thing about it.
I mean, I don't want to debate because I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really feel like I'm capable of doing that conversation. But
see, this is where you just point. Yeah, but you just point out, like, okay, but why aren't these? They seem to have verified their beliefs,
right?
they used all of this, all these things referenced each other. It wasn't just one thing, and they're like, good enough, we're gonna go hit the house.
Mhm.
They put together an investigation, they check things out, and then, don't film yourself committing crimes.
Mhm.
Or, people are like, well, maybe he was joking. And I'm like, don't joke about committing crimes because the police won't know the difference.
Sure. Sure. Okay, interesting. Okay, let me read some
Yeah.
supers. Nomad, thanks so much for joining the Free Will Seekers. Chad Summer for €5 says, breaking news, the jury on Trump's hush money trial has finished their deliberations and have unanimously agreed that Dev is in fact morbidly obese. Wow. Jesus, Chad Summer. So mean.
Well, that's
So mean
brutal.
to Dev.
People were
Oh,
talking about how if Nick gets a felony that he can't own firearms, which
right.
That's
so
true.
yeah. I started a poll. Would you go to jail for 5 years to keep your Second Amendment rights? Yes or no? So because
Like, in jail
I
for
am
5 years
curious.
to keep my Second Amendment rights.
Obviously, look, I think
Wait, how would that
the
if you go to jail, you still get hit with a felony? What do you
no,
mean?
but
No, but he's saying,
look,
would
I'm
you
saying,
trade that in
yeah,
reality?
Yeah, but I don't. Is there a
I
way that would even
Well, no, I
happen?
think I'm just saying, like, right now, if you could go to jail, like, I
Like
get
if
what
you
you're
could
getting
go to
hypothetically?
at.
jail for 5 years and keep your Second Amendment rights, would you do it? Like, I think
Gotcha.
jail time is like the thing you're trying to avoid here.
Yeah, I
Like,
would
call
not.
me
I would not.
crazy.
I spent enough time in jails. I don't want to live in
Yeah,
one.
of course. Can you?
Really? What
Yeah,
did you go to jail for?
I go see clients all the time.
yeah.
Oh,
Look,
sure. Like this story.
he's not going to jail. He's seeing the
Yeah.
atmosphere in jail and saying, "Fuck that."
Yeah.
Right.
Or when you're sitting there with a client and they're like, they get their tray, and you're like,
Oof.
yeah, I'm not gonna fucking eat
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
I can't believe so far 40% of 100 people said they would go to jail for 5 years to
Look,
keep their
I
second.
I
Oh,
think
listen.
they're fucking lying.
Well, see,
Yeah.
I'm just
but
gonna
at
be
that point,
honest
I would
with you.
just go ahead and break the law if you've already slapped me like that and just deal with the consequences. So,
Yeah, I mean, you might as well, right?
yeah.
Right.
Look, if you can
Jeez.
give up your Second Amendment rights to stay out of jail for
I'll go to
5 years,
I'll go to jail for 5 years to get rid of the 19th Amendment. I mean, if we can do that.
Which one's
that's
the
the
19th?
women voting amendment. Is that
Oh
what you're
my
trying to get rid of?
God.
Look, you're gonna take
Or get rid of the income tax. I
you're
don't
gonna
know.
take one for the team.
Wow. Okay,
If we
look
get
at
rid of the
this.
Federal Reserve, I'll do that.
Wow, it's gonna get rid of the Fed. You
Which
and Adam should
what
argue
amendment
about
is the
Fed
Federal
policy
Reserve?
together.
No, I just wanted because I know you like modern monetary theory, Adam.
Oh, he's just triggering you. Okay. Would you go to jail for 5 years to make all anime illegal?
I think I would bear that burden.
Look at this. Terrible.
They built statues for me.
Oh,
Oh wow.
and this is completely unrelated, but regarding okay, so like there is obviously the Trump case. There's the deliberations today is
Yes.
going on. There is this. I saw a lot of people who are Trump fans that are very, very upset. They're upset that in the jury instructions,
Mm-hmm.
the judge said that for the felony upcharge, the jurors don't have to necessarily agree on what it is, what criminal activity it was that Trump would be accused of hiding in order to find him guilty of hiding
I
something
think that's a
for.
problem.
Okay, why is that a problem?
Because, well, I think he committed this crime. Like, if me and you were deliberating and we're like, well, normally it's a unanimous verdict. It's like if Fosh murders Adam, we all have to agree that it happened to convict
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
But to argue, when you get to this idea of having it, and I didn't see the instructions specifically, but I was reading through some things. Which criminal activity he did to do the cover up. I get the idea is that the cover up itself is a crime and of its own action. But from what I understand, I don't think it was worded as clearly as possible by the judge.
Well, no, I guess
So,
so I haven't read the statute, so I don't know what it says
yeah.
specifically. But like if it says hypothetically that,
Mhm.
oh, if you falsify business records in
Yeah.
commission of another crime, that's all it says, right?
Yes.
And so I guess if that's all it says, and then the judge says, well, you don't have to agree on what the crime is, just that that is covering up a crime, right? Is that what the
Yeah.
argument is?
I think if that's how the statute's written, I forget because it's been a while since I looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, I think you're kind of left with, well, if that's how the statute's written, fine. but I'd argue that's probably a pretty poorly worded statute. That if it's that open,
Right. Okay. I mean, I guess we'll find out anyway. So, Stug, thanks so
it'll
much
be
for joining the Free Will Seekers for 26 months. Thank you so much. It says resting meth face. Look at that.
that's not meth face. That's like, oh shit, everybody's gonna see this.
Yeah.
See
That's
what?
that's what it is. That's what I'd have the same look. Like,
Right.
oh my god.
Joshua Calhero, thanks so much for the 11 months. Says using my gifted membership. Thanks, J Mac, to remind everyone that drugs are bad. Okay. Keep fighting the good fight, everyone. It's gonna get weird. There you go. TL1524 for $5 says, if it's wrong to snort brown off a lady of the polls, bum, I don't want to be right. S class needs a snort class. No, S class is mostly drug free. Okay. If marijuana is legal where you are, go for it. And we should legalize psilocybin mushrooms. Okay.
If I go to Oregon, aren't all drugs legal in Oregon now? Or is that just Portland?
I think it might just be Portland.
I don't know.
Somebody here is saying in chat they'll go to jail for 5 years so the comic comes out.
I know. I know they are. We have a comic that we never talk about, which is a
I know.
terrible
I've seen
model,
you guys
so.
some of the stuff about it. Yeah, I watch you guys a lot.
Yeah.
It's you guys are making Vito look efficient with your time.
Wow.
Oh,
that's bad.
yeah. Vito, look, I've talked to Vito about his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he's
I know
plugging
it
away.
takes
His
a lot of
comic
time to do it.
Well, I'm basically doing everything myself, which is
Yeah.
what takes all the time. So
it definitely does.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like trying to do it in the middle of doing all your other stuff like that. Yeah, I can only imagine it's.
Yeah,
and
that's
then you're doing the show on top of it. It's like,
right.
like,
yeah,
you could be working in this time.
If I could draw, I would help. But Adam's seen my drawings. Chat has seen my drawings.
You should do the concept art. You do the story.
I did actually. I did the what do we call them? The little the story. I did the storyboards, didn't I? I did a lot of storyboarding, and it was just terrible.
I mean, we both did storyboarding. So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Do we have those? Those should be like a special feature. People could see the terrible like stick figure.
Oh yeah,
story.
that'd be
that's
the stretch
can.
goal.
Yeah, that's the ash can. That's right. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I was gonna ask you. Do you hate Vito? Is there some drama with you and Vito?
No, I think Vito, where he talks about being a pedophile and all that. I'm just like, I don't really and like, oh, it's all a joke.
Vito
like,
talks about being a pedophile.
I mean, I hate Vito, but I still talk to him. So I mean,
and he's even said like the way it's referenced it being like a non-offending pedophile. I'm like, I ain't got time for that.
I'm completely unaware that he's made comments about this.
You don't. What are you talking about? The Vito, he calls his fans the Vitophiles, like pedophiles.
Yeah, but that's not calling yourself a pedo, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he defended Cuties, but I think even though I think that movie is terrible and I made a whole video about it, I think you can defend that movie without being a pedo.
Did you see when Vito went on Yellow Flash and kind of had a mea culpa about how saying the pedo stuff was bad for his brand and he shouldn't have done it? And Sean, did you see this?
I have seen that, but it's like I'm a little.
You're still skeptical.
Yeah, that's of the things like funny joke. It's like joke's on you. I was only pretending to be a person who savagely assaults children. Like,
yeah, it's not a good thing to joke about. Yeah,
we got Vito to rage quit one time when we were debating. Like, I think it was the Eric July stuff.
Yeah,
which was kind of funny.
Vito hits me as like the definition of psychological reactant. Like he just
of course
does whatever people tell him not to do. So
yeah.
Right. Okay. Philip Kogan, thanks so much for $10. Says when a talk with the police begins with the Miranda warning, STFU, it's not going to go well for you. That's true. Filthy Casual for $10 says, I'm in my 20s. I was fueled by this. I was replacing a customer's furnace in their attic, and my coworker dropped the bullet. It fell into her closet from the attic access, and I found it bounced into her shoes. Oh my God.
No way.
It's a good thing you found it. Jesus. So the little old lady's
Old
like,
la-
"What is
old
this
lady
thing in
takes
my
it,
shoe?" Like,
somebody's grandma turns into a coke addict. That's
oh
bad.
my god, terrible. A Libertarian Sasquatch for $5 says, "I'd be shocked if Nick had pure Peruvian marching powder. Also, dump spoons are for women. Grow a Rick James nail like an
Oh,
adult."
yeah. I think Nick is very lucky he didn't get fentanyl or some nasty stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's been stories in Los Angeles where like 4 yuppies end up dead in a hotel room because they get fentanyl. They just all like die immediately.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're gonna do coke, have some Narcan.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Or some sort of tester to find out if it's got fentanyl in it.
I wouldn't. I'm not trusting my life on test strips
Well,
like
best
that.
case, you have both, right?
Yeah.
Uncivil Law in the chat says, "Let Sean know that Nick posted 10% bond, so I guess he's still
Oh
free to drink."
shit. Oh
Exciting.
shit. Oh god.
What does that mean?
So the way in Minnesota, and this blows my mind. This happens. So in Minnesota, there's 2 types of bonds. There's a conditional bond where you have to abide by the terms of a court, which
Mm-hmm.
you would probably think, oh, I can't go out and break the law. I can't do drugs or alcohol.
Sure.
I can't leave the state without permission. Minnesota allows for unconditional bond, meaning I can do whatever the fuck I want. And
Wow.
Nick posted the money to go do whatever the fuck he wants.
Now, does
Right.
everyone get that offer, or does the court have to agree to
I
give
think that's an
unconditional
offer
bond?
for everybody, unless
Wow.
I assume there might be violent crimes where they say cash only.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Nick could have been released on his own recognizance for no money, and he'd be under heavy restriction. Or
Okay.
he pays money and he can. Now, the funny thing is, a lot of states, there is no difference in that. It's whatever your bond is, you still have to abide by rules. Like you might have to come in and do drug testing. You can't leave the state without permission. But in Minnesota, they're like, no, put some money up. And the neat thing is, if you even get caught violating bond, so for example, Nick can go out and stream tonight and he can just sit there and just, like he can do the Tony Montana thing and just go right into a pile of snow. They can't go arrest him. They have to file a motion to have his bond revoked.
Right.
They can't literally do anything to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
They can't
Okay.
arrest him for doing illegal drugs. I mean, if he wants to drink, that's not illegal, but
Maybe they could, but I
yeah,
think that'd be
like
a little tough in the aftermath. But like they'd have to know what's happening right now. We need to get a warrant, go arrest him. But
yeah.
they might not notice until the day later. But yes, they could he could
Mr.
do a lot of
Mr.
things.
Ubercross, who is also an attorney, wanted me to ask if you think Nick will get special treatment because he's a rich attorney in Minnesota.
I don't think so. I think that actually might be the that could be a factor against him though too, because he's not, as far as factors go, you can be like, he can't do I was a poor black child growing up in Louisiana.
Right.
He's gonna, he's well educated, he understands things, he, knows about drug use, he lives at was self-employed, was very successful. Those are factors where the court might say, like, you're not like a normal person who's down on their luck and having trouble and falls into addiction or had a family with addiction and a crappy childhood. Those things can be used against you to an extent, but that's only if really Nick just goes off the rails and has problems. Otherwise, courts are about fairness and what do we do for everybody else in the situation? Well, we try to work with them.
Right. Caleb the Cynic, thanks so much for being a 1-year free will seeker. Thank you. Max Attack for $5 says Nick is right to protect his side whore, unlike his wife who can't be compelled to testify. Well, that's an interesting point, right?
Oh, yeah.
It depends. I mean, yes, that's a possibility there, but it depends on the situations about, being compelled to testify, the spousal privilege, sure. Covers statements like, well, was there cocaine in the house? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who bought it? Nick. There's limits to where spousal privilege goes, and it's generally about statements, not actions.
Oh, okay.
So like, did he go out? Did he do this? Did he do that? Where does he go? You don't generally get the right, not everything is spousally protected.
Gotcha. Steel Wrath for $10 says the Dabbleverse is our Fight Club and Ray DeVito is our Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
There you go. Libertarian Stat Squash for $50 says, when in doubt, use your brown purse to hide it. I think he's saying shove the drugs up your butt. Red 473 for $5.
Did you skip one? I don't. Oh.
I read that one already.
Oh, okay.
That was the Sean is a Third Amendment absolutist.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Red 473 for $5 says, gentlemen, Aaron is a well-known lolcow. You should check out some of the content on him. He's famous for e-begging talk to Bedabbler. Is this true?
That is Aaron Imolte, right?
Yeah,
Steel-toed
yeah,
guy.
Aaron was a lolcow, but he really didn't come to prominence until Nick entered their universe. Like the Dabbleverse, knew about him. But he was really unknown until Nick entered Nick entered that part of the world.
Gotcha.
You could say Nick went from the sector into another sector.
Right.
The YouTube sectors.
Well, we went from the sector into the Dabbleverse, but yeah, he touched over there.
Lord Asserman for $5 says the clip of Nick accusing Monty of having done horrific things to little boys is disgusting, and his attempts to reframe his words are pathetic. There you go.
Yeah, I don't like that false accusation stuff because it can damage people, especially people who have big platforms. I mean, our platform is not giant, but I am weary of being too rough on people who don't have a platform.
Especially with like a pedo thing, but I don't know what I haven't seen the clip of what he was saying specifically. So, Spencer for 4 months says S-Class is the best class.
It is.
Oh, look at that. Thank you, Sean. Even though you don't like anime, I accept it. Adam is pretty chill. There you go. Collab stream when the body cam footage drops with potentially criminal, good logic, and Nate the lawyer. Well, that'd be fun.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. I don't know why they'd have us on. They're all
I think he meant between those three, not us. But
okay, yes, yeah.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't be fun because you guys are all friends with Nick, right? So it's kind of, I know fun is a way of saying it, right?
Yeah. It'll be interesting.
I guess that's the next step.
I just want to watch him throw it on the ground. I want to watch him throw the warrant on the ground. How he does it.
Right.
Guy that'll turn into a GIF all on its own.
Were you in a good relationship with Nick before all this happened?
I mean, there's the famous thing where Nick yelled at me for like 20 minutes back in it's almost like 6-7 months ago now, or actually maybe 8 months ago. And at the time, we were sitting there talking and hanging out, and I was making we were cracking jokes, and then I cracked the joke that I didn't realize I kind of slipped it. It's like we're just shadow boxing, and I slipped a jab and I connected. But oh boy. I slipped
what
a
was
good
a
one
joke?
in there. So he has had his issues with Null over on the farms, and Null has said that Nick.
This is the guy that owns what is called Kiwi Farms.
Yeah, Kiwi Farms, and Nick called him, and Nick, I guess, had told Null at some point it's not clear, but it became known as the shower call.
Right. I've heard about this.
Yes.
He called somebody from the shower.
And I made a joke about Nick saying, well, you should probably get a hot water heater, like one of the tankless hot water heaters, so you can do infinite shower calls. And you're not limited.
Oh,
no. But I had made a joke or two before that, and it wasn't really bad. I didn't, the other stuff he had laughed about, but that apparently that set him off. And I'm just making jokes. It's a comedy show.
What is this? I don't understand this shower. What is the kind of this shower?
Yeah, what is the meaning
he called
of
Null
the
while he was in the shower. He was talking to Null for so long he ended up taking a shower in the middle of it. The whole thing's weird.
Wait, it's supposed to be that. Okay, wait. It's supposed to be that he was on the phone with someone and then started showering while he was on the phone, or he in the shower pulled out his phone from somewhere and started calling.
He started the phone call went so long he ended up trying to take a shower. He took a shower in the middle of it.
Okay, why is that I mean, that's weird, but why is that
weird?
An insult?
Because I think the joke is I was trying to make the joke that he's got a lot of problems with the farms and Null, and they were only getting worse. That you're gonna need to make more phone calls, so you might as well have a tankless water heater. Because I'd made the joke about him, what he did. It was at a hotel.
Mhm.
So they had free hot water. I'm like, well, you're going to need a tankless water heater.
I get I
Yeah.
get your joke. I'm just saying I don't
Oh yeah,
understand why.
he
Right.
got so
Why the internet got mad is what you're asking. Why did
I
the
don't
internet get
understand why
mad that
like this
he made a
shower
phone call
call
during
thing.
taking a shower?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
if
who
you want,
cares? It's just a weird.
well, just if you Google Nick yelling at Sean,
Okay.
it'll make itself pretty clear. He gets really mad, and
Mhm.
I end up standing in because I'm on the farms. I enjoy the farms. I've lurked there forever, and I finally signed up and started posting a couple years back.
Okay.
I'm proud of it. And people. Part of the reason why I was getting a lot of shit lately is with Nick. People are saying, "Oh, it's the farm's fault." Nope, not their fault. They aren't the reason why Nick is in this position. They didn't drive him to do anything. This is all Nick is the architect of his own demise. And a lot of people got mad about that. But anyway, I stood in for the farms, and Nick is screaming, yelling at me like a lot. And in the middle of this, while he's yelling at me, I kind of started spacing out and started cruising the farms because I was like, whatever. Because I know he wasn't mad at me. I know he wasn't mad at me personally. So I was able to discern that this wasn't being directed at me. I was just the person standing in because I have affiliation with them.
Right.
So there's times where he's, if you guys see in chat, like him screaming, like, who brought it up, Sean? Who brought it up? Answer the question, Sean. Those are things he was yelling. And he's yelling.
Let's see if do you mind if we bring the clip up? Yeah. So
it's like 20 minutes, but we can watch it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm down to watch if you're down, Sitch. But look, Sitch is asking a specific question here.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah,
Nick Rekieta talks to a guy. No, let me finish.
Yeah.
Nick Rekieta talks to a guy while he's taking a shower. He wants to know why this is a big deal. Why the internet is upset about this happening.
Yeah, because I just be like, who cares?
Sitch often calls people from the shower.
Yes,
So
you don't have the little like hands-free like speaker in your shower that you can just like be like, Siri, call Adam friended, and then I talk to Adam while
I have never talked to
taint.
Sitch. Well, he's in the shower. I want that to be clear here. Okay.
It's more of the idea that Nick was calling and he was very despondent. He was really mad that people on the farms were talking about him, that he felt it wasn't fair, and that Noel wasn't stopping it. So it was more of like the idea Nick is, it's like
so he's keeping him on
it's like
the phone.
meme, like where the song's in the background and he's just all, oh my God, help me.
So the context is like he's talking for him to so long about stopping the farms that he's actually has to take a shower in the middle of the phone call.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the context?
That makes more sense.
I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. Yes.
And
in the middle of while this is all going on, people have this image of like Nick sitting there and it's like, please don't call no wonder. And Nick sitting there texting and crying in the shower.
You know the person crying in the shower scene? Sitch?
Yes.
The classic crying in the shower scene from the movie.
Dido's playing in the background too.
The funny image of someone calling someone to complain and it keeps cutting back to them and the call is going for so long, you see them like doing every daily activity they would normally do while still complaining to the person. Yes.
Well, I think the shower is particularly, I mean, I can just picture someone in the shower fully clothed, like depressed, right?
Right. Okay. I understand that. It all makes sense.
So the meme takes off.
Okay. So he yelled at you. Right. He yelled at you for this joke. Right.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'm still cool with that. Like I didn't like. Okay, it was kind of funny, and then it became a meme, and then people started clipping it, and I'm like, okay, whatever, no big deal. I was fine. Like we ended up finishing the show, and I was totally cool. It's since then, Nick has said a lot of things that I don't agree with. He's done a lot of things I don't agree with.
About you or just in general?
Just in general, and I've voiced those opinions. Like I think I've said it for a while now. I want him to get better. What he's doing is not the right way for him to go about stuff. I think he's had, I've had concerns like about all of this, the drinking especially. Like I'm surprised he didn't get a DUI in the meantime. What the amount of drinking he's doing, and that he didn't like put his Mustang in a telephone pole. Thank God that didn't happen.
Right. That scene.
But there's also things where, on a just on a philosophical level, he is, he said other things, and I don't want to get into those. I've said them on my own time, and I think that's the more proper space for it. But he said other comments I completely disagree with, and I have a major problem with. But just overall, like, I want him to get better, and he's, just going off the deep end, acting like a crazy man, and like his his defamation case, he won't just, he keeps on doubling down on it. It's like, you know what?
Sure.
I was wrong about Montagraph, and Montagraph approached me. He emailed me. He's like, "Look, dude, you got it all wrong. Here's this." And I said, "You know what? Fair enough." And I apologized to him. I said, "I got it wrong." But Nick is just driving off a cliff with this, and it's just insane.
People keep saying, "But who brought it up, Sean?" Is this like a meme?
That's part of when Nick's screaming at me. He
I
screams.
sent you a link to the watch together. I'm gonna throw it in the watch together.
Oh God, here we go.
We don't have to. Look,
No.
asked you if it was
I'm happy
okay.
to watch it, but if you want to sit here and watch it, I'm not joking.
Well,
it's
maybe
every
just a
2
minute
minutes.
of it. I mean, just for context, right?
Okay,
We don't have
fair
to
enough.
watch the whole thing. Jeez.
It gets.
You brought it up.
Spots.
Oh, I mean, I brought it up. But...
Inshallah says, "Pull up, Baldo man."
I notice it's not on Nick's channel. It's on somebody else's channel.
If you go to Alyssa clip, she should have
Yeah, that's it. That's
okay.
it.
Now, here's the thing, and I said this, is, Nick needs to get right in his life. He needs to, basically find Jesus. He needs to own up for what he's done to his family, and he gets through all that. I'll be sitting here waiting for him, saying, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" But in the meantime, I ain't sticking it. Like,
Inshallah says,
I'm standing right here. He can go run off and do whatever, but
right.
So it sounds like there's bad blood between the two of you, and
I don't really think there's
irreconcilable differences, as they say.
Yes, mortal enemies for the rest of eternity.
You guys have gone your own. Look, this happens on YouTube. Like, people just have personality conflicts, and
honestly, if he gets his shit right, I'll be happy to welcome him back with open arms. But that's.
It sounds like he's mad at you, though. Like, I don't know
He
that
might
that's
be
an
mad
option.
At me.
Yeah,
and he might be, but I also think he's fell into a bottle. So who knows if he really is mad at me or not.
Brian for $20 says, "What this poll shows is that there are not many people that stand up on their principles. We, the minority, would refuse to go to the back of the bus. We would save Anne Frank. We are the superior people." There you go. It's still 40% saying that they would go to jail for 5 years to keep their Second Amendment rights. Wow. Interesting.
I think the poll might be different if a judge actually sentenced him to 5 years in prison.
that actual situation,
right?
Yeah. J-Mac,
that's actually what I was going to say. Everybody talks about being a gangster until it's time to be a gangster. Like,
right?
Oh, I'd serve 5 years.
Right.
Here's the jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Walk through the door. It's like a lot of people are going to think they left their oven on.
What is a gun anyway? J-Mac, our surrogate father, for $20 says, "All right, which one of you is a deuce talker? Fess up." So I do not call people when I'm taking a crap. People will call me occasionally. I'll mute myself.
Don't pick up. Why? Just don't pick up.
But I try to make the calls brief. I don't think I've ever talked to Adam. I think Adam has been like, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "You can," but I'm taking a shit. And then you're like, "Okay."
I'm like, yeah, never mind. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Right. So.
Yeah, I try to avoid that too.
Okay. Let's see. Villatro7 for $5 says, "Sean can't truly hate anime. He associates with a white fox anime woman. Try to describe that brain damage."
Wait, I didn't hear that. Describe what brain damage?
He says, "You don't truly hate anime because you associate with a white fox anime woman."
Oh, Kirsha. That's who.
Okay.
She's like friends with Pippa.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't really truly hate it. I just don't care for it.
Okay. Sketch for $5 says, "Kick Sean from the stream right now." Look at that.
Why?
Return Sasquatch for $2 says, "Barnes lives off being fired from Kyle Rittenhouse." I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. Holy shit.
So sad.
I completely forgot that happened.
Look, this is bad, Nick. This is bad for Kyle Rittenhouse too, because Kyle Rittenhouse did an interview with Nick and stuff.
Yeah, and now it's like, the guy who was talking about balls and no balls and all that. Yeah, this is it doesn't look good. Yeah, it does not look good.
I mean, I don't think he was gonna criticize Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, you got interviewed by a guy who's in jail. I mean, I don't think.
Oh no, that's gonna
That
think?
will
back.
happen. What are you
Okay.
talking about?
People look for every excuse to bag on him.
Kyle
Yes.
Rittenhouse crossed state lines to be interviewed by Nick Rekieta.
Yes.
Kyle Rittenhouse went on a drug addict's show on YouTube. They're
Yeah.
gonna totally say that. Why wouldn't
Oh
they?
yeah.
They're like, did
Mhm.
he offer you any drugs, Kyle?
This is the guy that defended Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes. This is the type of man who defends Kyle Rittenhouse.
Okay, interesting. We'll see if that comes.
Yes.
Ocracy for $5 says, Sitch, you got to ask him the real question. Does he eat his food with stupid, dirty chopsticks like a caveman? That's a good point. Do you use chopsticks or a fork?
If I'm like in a restaurant where I don't want to eat, like just feel like I'm gonna go slow, I'll use chopsticks because you can't just mow down.
Wow.
But otherwise,
Chopsticks
yes,
are
I'll use a
great. Don't
fork.
let them.
Look
Don't
at
let them
this.
pressure you.
How un-American.
Sean.
What an un-American, okay? Uses the metric system to weigh out his drugs, uses chopsticks.
Yes. The metric
Terrible.
system for my bullet diameters.
Yeah, exactly. For your Baldo diameters. I'm playing at the escape corner
Oh,
for $2. Says,
You guys know what that is, right?
yes.
Unfortunately, Sitch looked it
Unfortunately.
up. I think he bought one later that day.
It looks so uncomfortable. That looks like the most
It
comfortable
does.
thing
I
for
still
both
don't
parties
understand.
involved. Jesus. I don't think anyone
Yeah.
would want that shit. Like, what? Blaine's Escape Core for $2 says, Evan, I assume they mean Neon Genesis, is the best anime. Just wait for my manifesto. Well, there you go. Irrelevant for €2 says, did you know about Josh's petition to stream the case?
Yes, I'm working with him on that.
This is
Wow.
Joshua Moon or Joshua someone else?
Josh Moon.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what is this? What is this?
We're trying.
petition?
Well, because when Nick's arraignment was last week, it was on Zoom, so it was a bunch of people in there, and
Yeah, how did
the
that
middle-
work? How are like I saw Carlin Borisenko was in there and stuff.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
because you it's just an open thing. You're in there while people are talking. As long as you aren't talking, it's not a problem.
Okay.
It's a Zoom call where everybody's mute. Except
Carlin
they didn't have
Borisenko was in Nick Rekieta's
Yes. I was like, what?
fuck?
I was like, how did that happen?
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Well, the funny part was though, initially they didn't forcibly mute everybody. So in the middle of while Nick was having his rights read to him, somebody
Yeah, people were talking.
oh well, it wasn't talk. It was somebody yelled at him to, Roblox himself
Oh wow.
Jeez.
in the middle of
Okay.
all the judges talking. And before the stream began, and I didn't get it recorded, somebody read out total N-word death.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna be bad. And Nick's
Ye-
reaction when the guy tells him to Roblox himself is like, "Yep, the internet's here."
Did he
So-
laugh? Did he smile? Like, oh, what
No,
was he
I
like?
think he was more of like, "Oh Jesus Christ!"
Right.
I'm
he's
like, now
embarrassed.
I'm trying to get out of jail right now.
Right.
So,
Mom and
yeah,
Dad, you're embarrassing
there's-
me.
And because there is no, while the courts will allow filming, there isn't necessarily a right to stream or film. You have to ask for it and petition for it.
Right.
So
Look at this short-stacked goblin for $2 says, "Why are you bringing me into this?" Wow, look at that, catching the strays.
yeah,
Terrible. Purple Brain for 16 months says, Anna Swig shared a clip of a hot tub stream on Twitter.
That Star Wars girl.
that Star Wars girl. Yeah,
Oh, that makes sense.
that hot tub stream is that's a rough one too.
Right. Rich Jammer for 26 months says, I watched Nick when he talked about law stuff, when he mostly talked about non-law stuff and turned it into the Nick Rekieta show. I tuned out. There you go. JMac for $20. Thank you so much. Says, if you framed it in a way that the government was going to arrest me for having guns, I'd 100% go to jail for 5 years. And you both know I'm not just blowing smoke. Well, I think the question was, first of all, I believe you 100%, Jay. But secondly, I think the framing of it was, if you took a plea deal that would get you listed as a felon, so you couldn't own a gun, but you would not go to jail, versus you go to jail but somehow escape being listed as a felon, so you could own a gun afterwards.
You get
That
to
was
keep all your rights. You just have to go to jail for 5 years.
Right. That was the hypothetical. We didn't really talk
Yes.
about like what was the like what you were going to jail or what the felony was for specifically.
Yeah.
So. There you go. Okay.
I'm too pretty for jail.
Yeah. I got too much shit to do, man. Sounds boring.
You'd be able to draw your comic though. You'd have a lot of free time.
I doubt
I
it.
don't think they give him a tablet in jail.
Yeah.
Silver line. Well, you'd have to do it by hand.
He's almost
Ugh.
done though.
Ugh.
Starting all over again. Like end it.
You just mail it the pages to Sitch. He'd like
I'll
glue them
finish
into the
it.
back of the book, and yeah.
There you go. Solo Doge for $2 says, didn't get a chance to say it earlier, but I'm glad Chase was made the LP, the Libertarian Party candidate, because it helped expose all the fake libertarians, like Phil Labonte, who decided now is a good time to reveal open contempt for gay marriage. Really? Phil came out against gay marriage?
Wow.
That doesn't sound like the Phil I know. Phil, how could you? Breaking my
That's
heart.
not very libertarian.
Yeah. Orca for $2 says, Under the Skin is stinky. The movie jumps from one new threat to another. The predator turned prey dynamic was not particularly interesting. The fourth time the black water scene happened, it felt way too repetitive. Well, there you go. I didn't like Under the
Okay.
Skin. Orca for another $2 says, A-Team reigns supreme. S-Class is okay these days. Good day, Wormbius Maximus. There you go.
Way to
Well,
put your back into that.
Is there
Super
anything
chat.
else you want to add, Sean?
No,
before we
no.
go?
This is great. Oh,
No,
you're talking
no,
about Sean? Okay, Sean.
Yeah, no. Did you want to watch this real? Do you want to watch this clip for a second?
Not
before we go?
really.
I mean, I'd like to watch 5 minutes of it, but Sitch sounds like he's being a little baby, so he's got to
No.
go.
I mean, if you want to, you're not in the watch.
I'm totally fine with it. I'm just like, you guys know it's.
You got to jump in the watch together, though. I've kind of been waiting on you, Sean. So go to your DMs and click on the link, and we'll watch like 5 minutes. And then
Okay.
and then we'll
shit, I
call
forgot
it a
we're doing
stream.
that way.
Right.
Yeah, we'll do it that way. All right.
Yeah, we
here
don't have a. We're not
Yeah.
on. All you guys use, I think, like StreamYard or something like that. Yeah.
We're very low tech.
Okay, I'm in there.
We're very high tech, actually. StreamYards
sorry.
messes with your audio. So
Well, I have problems with it once in a while.
your audio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Says, pull up, Baldo man. Juicy boy just has the tism. I know he has the tism. That's why I keep telling him. I'm like, Josh, stop being a fucking loser. Like, stop doing. You're so weird. Like, there's no reason for us to be fighting you, gay boy.
And that's Josh Moon, right?
Yes.
The guy who runs what is
Kiwi
it called?
Farms.
Kiwi Farm.
Kiwi Farms.
He's like, oh no, he's what?
He's not fighting.
Come on, Sean.
He's got a personal opinion, and that's where he is. Like, that's
His
not
personal
a fight.
opinion is objectively retarded and wrong. He's like,
Okay.
he's saying flat out false things. Like, and when I would tell him, he's just like, no, I'm a good judge of people. And I'm like, but you're literally like, you're objectively incorrect.
The only thing I can counsel you on is probably you need one of those tankless water heaters because your shower
Yeah.
conversations haven't gone on long enough.
I wasn't home when I did that, Sean.
Well, I know, but you need a tankless water heater. If you're at like the hotel, it should have been free hot water. You should have just kept going.
I was only in the shower like 15 minutes out of that 2-hour conversation.
Well, but I'm just saying,
The only reason I got in the shower because he was so fucking retarded that he wouldn't listen to very basic things. He's like, but tell me what you want me to do. I'm like, I don't want you to do anything. Oh, wait, am I supposed to sit here and simp for Josh while you're on my show? Because, like, what am I supposed to do here, Sean? Tell me. Why don't you tell me right now? You got a thing. Tell me. Tell me what I'm supposed to do.
I don't, but I don't.
Okay, he is expressing kind of some anger
And here we
right?
go. It's gonna get good.
And I don't think saying that, well, I was only in the shower for 15 minutes of a 2-hour phone call, I don't think that's a good defense.
No, yeah. Look, he admitted it was a 2-hour phone call.
Right.
Wow.
What?
Don't worry,
So wait. So I have a 2-hour conversation with Josh. It goes on so long. I tell him a joke. Hey, Josh, this has gone on so long while I'm trying to tell you that you're doing this thing. And I just think that maybe, like, I don't want you to do anything at all. And he's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, literally nothing. He's like, do you want me to delete something? No. Do you want me to censor something? No, Josh. I'm just telling you, you have a thing where you do this thing where you come up with a falsehood and then you run with it. And I will tell you that these things are false only because I know they're false. So what I'm worried about, and this is what I told him, Sean, this is what I told him.
What were they even arguing about? What was the accusation?
I at this
You know.
point, there were things being said in his Nick's thread on the farms that were not true, and Nick was trying to tell Josh they weren't true. And the way I understand it, when I remember this correctly, because it's been a little while since I've had to watch this, Null's argument was, well, if there's something wrong, tell me, because the farms is, it tries to be big on like, okay, well, if something's correct, we'll correct it and, be correct about it. He's like, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to know that's the truth.
Why would you not want him to fix it?
Well,
Nick is a free speech absolutist, though.
Yeah,
but if it's not correct, like factually not correct, it's like part of the farm is also documenting things like information. Right. So if it's not correct, it should be corrected.
Do you remember any of these false allegations, or it's too long ago?
Well, he gets to them, but there's claims that he does drugs, that he's beat his kids, that he's swinging. That
two of those became true, right?
Well, he hasn't. Well, yeah. Well, he didn't necessarily beat his kids, but he's in.
That's why I said drugs and swinging were the 2 out of the 3, right? Yeah.
And abusing them or neglecting them. Well, you're neglecting them. You're kind of getting most of the way there.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Why are you listed here as Zelensky's coke mule?
Because that's what I picked.
Oh, okay.
Because on StreamYard you can put like a thing under below and
right.
Yeah.
Hour and a fucking half.
I told him,
Ukraine, Josh, you are doing this thing that I can tell you you're wrong on, where you are misinterpreting what people are saying. And I think it's because you have this great ability to take in factual information, but you have an inability to discern fact from like colloquialisms, jokes, various aspects of normal people conversation. And I didn't even I said autism as a joke at first, but I was saying everybody who talks to you is bringing you a problem to solve as a system administrator. And so you approach life as a sysadmin with everybody's got a problem to solve. That means that when someone tells you something, you're not looking at it as it could be like I'm like, you're flat out wrong on timelines on a lot of stuff. Like this is an example. You have an inability to determine what happened 10 years ago versus now based on conversational cues. I can tell you that because I can tell you what is going on versus what happened in the past. And I'm trying to give you examples. He's like, you want me to do this? I'm like, no, I don't fucking care about that at all. I'm trying to tell you because if you're doing this where I know this is happening, then you might be doing it in places where I don't know this is happening and you don't know this is happening. I want you to just have this knowledge for when you're looking at stuff. And he's like, what do you want me to change? And I said, Josh, I have never, and this is the fucking irritating thing about him, Sean, because he's just kind of let this go. I have never in my fucking life asked him to change, delete, or censor a goddamn thing. Even when I said to Josh on multiple occasions, I'm like, what you said or what you reported or what you relayed was flat out factually fucking wrong about me. Flat out wrong. And he says, do you want me to do something about it? I said, no. I just want you to know as a friend that what you said is not true. I don't care that you said it. I don't care that it's wrong. I'm not going to go online and be like, Josh said this lie about me. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you the thing was wrong because you are someone I know. We have a relationship and I just want you to know that that's not true. And how did that get twisted? Sean, tell me how it got fucking twisted. What is the narrative about why I talked to Josh? Tell me right now. Because I know you know. What is it?
So if all of this stuff, if any of these claims were vindicated by Nick getting arrested, now you understand why Sean, it's Josh, right? Josh Moon?
Yeah, Josh.
Why Josh is interested in this case, right?
Yes. Well, and it's when you get to this point, and this is where I told Nick, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you? It's wrong. Well, I want you to know it's wrong, but you don't have to tell anybody else. Like, that doesn't. I struggle with that. It didn't make much sense to me at the time. It still doesn't, because if it's wrong, then fix it. And he wants to fix it. No, I don't want you to fix it. Don't correct the record. It's like, why not? And here we go. Here we go. It's.
What do I want Josh to do?
Well,
tell me.
You're
on here bringing it up. Tell me right now. What do I want Josh to do? Tell me.
There it is that you want him to go after the detractors.
I want him to censor stuff, right? I want him to remove shit from my thread.
Yes.
Every time Josh has asked me, what do I need to do? Who do I go after? Who do I ban? What do I remove? I said nothing ever. Every time, Sean. Every fucking time. That's what I said. This motherfucker goes out there and runs with this narrative that I'm trying to get him to censor shit. Never in my life. Never. And I've said over and over, I would never, ever attempt to censor the farms, no matter how wrong they are. No matter how wrong he is, I've never asked him to change a goddamn thing. Even shit he said, what do you want me to take back? What do you want me to retract? What do you want me to do? And I said, nothing ever. I just want you to know, as my friend, that this isn't true. He would respond with, well, I have this advice for you. And I would just listen, Sean. So, yes, while I was in Corpus Christi, Texas, at midnight, where Josh's like, he's texting me at midnight. I go to sleep at 5 in the fucking morning. Every goddamn night, because I do this goddamn show starting at 11. He's like, he's texting me at midnight. What a weirdo. Yeah, I texted you at midnight, you fucking idiot, because I'm awake until 5 every day, no matter what I do. That's my sleep schedule. And I'm sitting there talking to him. I thought I was going to have a 15-minute conversation where I'm like, hey, by the way, Josh, I noticed this thing that you do where you interpret things wrong. And I know you're interpreting these things wrong because I know the people involved. And I just want to let you know that maybe it applies to someone else. He didn't show that or say that, did he? No, he said, I went in some roundabout way to try to get him to censor something. I have never in my fucking life asked him to censor a goddamn fucking thing. Never, Sean. I've defended everything about the Kiwi farms. I said I would defend it forever, and I still do, by the way. Even though they say the most horrific shit about me, the most horrific shit about my wife, they say the most horrific shit about my family, they flat out fucking lie. They say I commit literal crimes. They say I abuse my children and my family. They say I beat my...
Yikes. Okay, maybe we should end it here.
Yeah, he gets, and there's more. Tell me, Sean, who said it, Sean? Tell me, Sean. Answer, Sean. Yeah, we really.
Sean, you're doing a great job of keeping your cool here.
Like I said, I'm cruising on the internet while he's talking, and then when he says my name, I kind of look up. So it's like, I know it's my
like
point.
kind of half paying attention.
That's
You're
my
like,
cue.
Oh, right,
That's my
right.
cue.
So wait, before you made that joke, what was the top? Was this being talked about? Those conversations,
I
like
forget what we were talking about. Everything was so nice, and then I stepped on a landmine, and then I don't know what happened. I was like, it's trying to be a comedy show, and he didn't want to do much comedy after that.
Were you like, why are you mad at me? I just like,
yes, and
yell at Josh.
Later on, I'm like, I was just trying to make a joke, Nick. Can we move on? And then finally, after he like burns out of it, I'm like, can we move on now?
Interesting.
I'm just sitting there. I'm like, please. I'm like yelling. I'm like, fuck. Why did I deserve to be here? Why did this happen to me?
Well, I threw it in the chat for those of you who want to watch the rest of it. So
right.
I know.
Was this the last conversation you had with him?
Online, yes.
Okay. But you talked to him on DMs or something?
Well, I've reached out to him, and I mean, I've asked like, hey man, are you doing it? Like, because I've watched some of these shows, and I'm like, dude, are you okay? Everything all right? I've reached out to him, like, is there anything I could do for you?
Has he responded to any of those things?
I mean, yeah, he's like, no, I'm all good, just going through a lot, and
right.
I don't know what going through a lot means. And then after he got arrested, I said, hey man,
going through a lot of coke. What do you mean? That's what
well, yeah, yes. And even when he got arrested, I was like, I said, I know you're going through a rough patch. I said, I hope the best for your family. And, all that, I just, yeah, because at the end of the day, like I said, I didn't come into this like, on team fuck Nick. I mean, like, yeah, now I've learned a lot of this. Yes, I think he did a lot of bad things, but like I said, he goes out, handles his business, comes back. Cool. But that's a long, long way away. Right. A long time away.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Sean. This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Just tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, all the fun places. And tonight, we're actually not sure because it's 7 now. we're gonna do a stream. I think I might do the police report because the police report did come out and actually like cover it. Was thinking about that, and right now also the middle of the Karen Reed trial. She's laid out in Boston, and like she's claiming that the police framed her for a murder of her boyfriend.
Okay.
And Adam, somebody mentioned in your chat about Richard Allen. Did you ask questions about that?
Who's Richard
Is that
Allen?
something?
No.
Oh, he's a guy out in Indiana where basically he's kind of getting the police are kind of framing him for the murder of like 2 girls out in the woods.
What the fuck?
Really bad. Oh, it's bad. It's bad.
I don't.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Oh, somebody mentioned it, so I didn't know if you had talked about it.
No,
we have not. No, but I dropped a link to your channel in our chat. You guys, if you haven't subscribed, you should. And I'll also put a link in the description. So this is a great conversation. Obviously, a lot of fun, a lot of internet lore, a lot of drama. We'll see what happens.
I'm now part of the lore because that's that conversation. You know, even Mr. Medicare, he's like, the fat guy Nick Rekieta yelled at, and I'm like, I'll take it. That's a great name.
You should
But
change it
anybody
to
who's
potentially
watching,
fat criminal.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably, if you guys are watching me, like probably 8 o'clock, we'll probably do something.
There you go. Potentially criminal on YouTube. Everyone, subscribe.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay.